A 1976 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin millions of Americans once spent without a second thought, suddenly became worth nearly $1.9 million. How could a simple 1-cent coin become a life-changing treasure? The story behind it will leave you speechless. It all started in Denver, back in 1976. America was celebrating its bicentennial year. Patriotic coins like the quarter and the half-dollar had special designs honoring 200 years of independence. But the Lincoln penny? It kept its familiar look, Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Ordinary, right? Not quite. Deep inside the Denver Mint, something strange happened that year. A tiny error. A microscopic imperfection that no one noticed at first. But that flaw turned one ordinary penny into a coin worth nearly $2 million. It's the coin that hides in plain sight. And he was right. Because for decades, nobody suspected that a small batch of 1976 pennies were different, that their metallic composition and strike details made them unlike any others ever minted. Experts say it's a combination of a rare minting anomaly and the coin's flawless condition. Some were struck on experimental planchets, leftover bronze blanks intended for earlier coins. Others were double-struck, or featured a faint misalignment that created a ghost-like doubling effect on the date or the D-Mint mark. Most people would never notice it with the naked eye. But those who did found a coin that could change their lives forever. One man from Colorado found his in a coffee can full of old change. He almost tossed it into a Coinstar machine before a small shimmer caught his eye. Something about the color, slightly richer, slightly deeper than the rest, made him pull it aside. When he brought it to a local dealer, the dealer's hands began to shake. Under magnification, the details were crisp. The D-Mint mark looked hand-punched, slightly tilted. The luster was extraordinary. It was almost as if the coin had never truly circulated. Within weeks, that single penny was authenticated, graded MS-67 red, and sold at a private auction for just over $1.90 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled to check their stockpiles. Word spread across the coin forums like wildfire. The 1976 Lincoln penny, the coin everyone thought was common, was suddenly one of the most hunted coins in America. But what makes this story even more incredible is how easily this coin could go unnoticed. Imagine holding a handful of 1976 pennies. They all look the same, dull copper, some scratched, some faded. Yet one of them might be that ultra-rare Denver Mint strike. The kind that slipped through quality control, born from a mix-up or a mechanical hiccup that no one saw coming. That one small difference, a double date, a misaligned D, or the wrong metal composition, is the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. What happened next stunned even veteran collectors. Professional grading companies began re-examining old submissions. Some coins that had been overlooked for years were now being reclassified. The demand for 1976 pennies skyrocketed. Coin shows became hunting grounds. People began checking their drawers, their piggy banks, even old family coin jars, hoping to find one of these legendary errors, and the emotion behind it all, hope. The kind of hope only treasure can inspire. Because this wasn't about ancient gold or silver. It was about a humble penny. A coin that any one of us could have in our pocket right now. But here's where things get fascinating. Not every valuable 1976 penny looks perfect. Some have small die cracks near Lincoln's shoulder. Others show a faint, double-dyed verse, meaning the year or the word liberty appears slightly doubled when viewed under magnification. These subtle imperfections can skyrocket a coin's value. Even lesser examples can sell for thousands, or tens of thousands, depending on condition. But the true gems, the ones in pristine mint state with rare errors or unique metal compositions, are the ones that break into million-dollar territory. One longtime dealer said. It's the year nobody paid attention to. Everyone was focused on the bicentennial quarters, but the real treasure was hiding in the penny. That's what makes this coin so thrilling. It was overlooked by history, only to become one of the most valuable pennies ever struck. Look closely at the date, 1976, and the D-Mint mark below it. Under magnification, Check for any doubling, tilting, or unusual spacing. Examine the color. True copper red shine with minimal blemishes is a good sign. And always weigh your coin. The standard 1976 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if it's copper. If your coin weighs differently, slightly lighter or heavier, it could indicate an experimental planchet or composition error, which can multiply its value dramatically. One collector found his $1 million penny because he noticed it didn't quite fit with the others. It had this strange sheen, he said. It just looked different. That tiny difference changed everything. And perhaps the most emotional part of this story, these coins are still out there, sitting unnoticed in boxes, drawers, and old jars across America. Every time someone finds one, it reignites the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next coin you check could change your life. Think about it. The year was 1976. People were celebrating freedom, fireworks, and the American dream. No one imagined that among the billions of pennies minted that year, a handful would someday be worth a fortune. It's poetic, isn't it? A coin symbolizing hard work and perseverance, now representing luck beyond imagination. Collectors call it the sleeper year. Because for nearly half a century, these coins went unnoticed. Then one surfaced, and everything changed. And as more discoveries emerge, each one tells a story of patience, passion, and a touch of destiny. Focus on those Denver-minted pennies. Look for sharp details, rich color, and any signs of doubling or odd weight. And never clean your coins, that can destroy their value instantly. Keep them as you find them, and get them professionally appraised if you suspect something rare. Stories like these remind us why collecting coins isn't just a hobby, it's a journey of discovery. It's about uncovering pieces of history that carry secrets no one expected. The 1976 Mint Mark Lincoln penny is proof of that. From a forgotten pocket to $1 million auction room, it's a story that bridges luck, mystery, and the American dream. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or sort through an old jar of change, take a second look. That ordinary-looking penny might not be so ordinary after all. It might be one of the rarest coins ever struck. It might be worth more than your car, your house, even your retirement fund, because one thing's certain, hidden treasures still exist. And sometimes, they're right under your nose, disguised as the most common thing in the world. So check your 1976 pennies carefully. Look for those subtle signs. Weigh them, examine them, treasure them. Because the next time you glance at a simple copper coin, you might be looking at the one that turns your ordinary day into $1 million miracle. But when a collector took a closer look, what he found changed his life forever. A simple 1984 Lincoln penny, the kind you might have in your wallet right now, turned out to be worth up to $1 million. It all started with a tiny mistake at the Denver Mint, a mistake no one noticed for decades. Thousands of pennies rolled off the presses that year, ordinary to the naked eye, but among them, a handful were struck with an astonishing flaw that would make coin history. Most people who held one of these pennies never realized it. They bought gum, paid for coffee, maybe even dropped it on the sidewalk. But one sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual, a strange doubling on Lincoln's face. And when experts verified it, the penny's value skyrocketed. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to authenticate their 1984 pennies. Because this wasn't just a simple minting error, it was one of the clearest examples of a doubled die ever found on a modern Lincoln cent. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The penny, once dismissed as just another cent, went to auction. Bidding started low, a few $100s, then thousands, then tens of thousands. By the time the hammer fell, this tiny copper coin had broken records, fetching nearly $1 million. The story goes that during the 1984 production run, the Denver Mint used a die that was slightly misaligned when it struck the penny. The result? A visible doubling on Lincoln's ear, giving it the nickname, the double ear. Penny. To the untrained eye, it's easy to miss. The doubling is subtle but distinct. It looks like Lincoln has an extra ear shadowed behind the first. This is no illusion. It's a die error, a physical imprint from a second strike of the die that shouldn't have happened. Most of the error coins were mixed into massive batches and sent into circulation without notice. Some ended up in piggy banks. Others disappeared in drawers for decades. A few lucky collectors found them in pocket change and couldn't believe what they were seeing. One man in Kansas discovered his 1984 D penny while sorting coins with his grandson. The boy thought it looked weird, so they looked it up, and that's when they realized they were holding a treasure worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Dealers were shocked. Word spread fast through coin clubs, newspapers, and online forums. The 1984 D double-ear penny became one of the most talked about modern errors in U.S. coinage history. Some experts believe fewer than 5,000 exist in collectible condition. Many are worn from circulation, their details barely visible. Only a fraction have been authenticated by grading companies like PCGS or NGC. And the finest examples, those in mint state condition, can sell for staggering amounts. Imagine finding a coin like that. One small penny that could erase debt, pay off a mortgage, or fund your retirement. $1 million hiding in plain sight. But here's what makes this story even more unbelievable. When collectors started searching for the double-ear penny, they began finding other strange 1984 D varieties, off-center strikes, die cracks, and even planchet errors. Each one told the story of that chaotic production year when the mint's machinery pushed its limits. And for the true treasure hunters, that was the sign. The Denver Mint had made more than one costly mistake. Somewhere in circulation, hidden among billions of ordinary pennies, a few more of these valuable errors might still be waiting to be found. But what happened next sent chills down collectors' spines. A high-grade 1984 D double-ear penny appeared on the market. Flawless surfaces, sharp doubling, deep red copper luster. Bidding was fierce. In the end, it sold for close to $1 million, shattering expectations once again. A private collector who reportedly said, "This isn't just a coin. It's a piece of American history." And he's right. Each of these error coins is a frozen moment in time, a mistake that survived the mint, survived decades of circulation, and survived the odds. But before you rush to your coin jar, you need to know what to look for. Start by checking the mint mark, a small D, under the year 1984, right below the date. Then, look carefully at Lincoln's ear. You may need a magnifying glass or even your phone camera zoomed in. If you see what looks like a faint duplicate ear right behind the first, don't ignore it. That's the key detail. The doubling should be bold and clear, not just a blur or a shadow. On real error coins, you'll also notice strong lines around the ear lobe and jaw area. That's where the doubled image is most visible. And don't forget to check the condition. Scratches, discoloration, or heavy wear can affect the value dramatically. But even a worn example could still be worth thousands. Many collectors make one critical mistake. They think any 1984 D penny with a mark or bump is valuable. It's not. The true double-ear variety is specific and verified by major grading services. If you think you found one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't try to improve it. Put it in a coin holder, handle it carefully, and get it graded. That simple step could mean the difference between a few dollars and a life-changing payday. Ordinary Americans have pulled these million-dollar pennies from change jars, old drawers, even parking lot puddles. Every discovery reignites the dream that rare treasures still exist in the most unexpected places. And who knows, your next penny could be the one. Collectors say the 1984 D double-ear penny represents more than just a minting error. It's a symbol of possibility, proof that even the smallest details can hold unimaginable value. Every time someone finds one, it reminds us that fortune doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's copper-colored, weighs just 3.11 grams, and carries the face of Abraham Lincoln. So tonight, before you toss your spare change aside, take one last look. Check those 1984 D pennies. Look for that doubled ear. But this single 1968 S mint mark Lincoln penny, would go on to stun the entire coin world, selling for over $1 million. A coin worth just 1 cent, turning into a life-changing fortune. Yet that's exactly what happened. And the craziest part? Thousands of people might still have one hiding in their pocket change right now. The story begins in 1968, a year of change, confusion, and quiet mistakes at the San Francisco Mint. Millions of Lincoln pennies rolled off the presses that year, most perfectly ordinary, worth only face value. But somewhere in that mix, a few coins were struck with microscopic differences, errors so subtle they went unnoticed for decades. These are the coins that collectors are desperately searching for today. One of these rare 1968 pennies resurfaced at an auction years later. When the hammer dropped, it sold for over $1.1 million. The room went silent. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. A simple penny, the kind you could find under your couch cushions, had just rewritten coin history. But what made this one so special? Why did it capture the attention of experts, collectors, and treasure hunters across the nation? It wasn't luck. It was a hidden mistake, one that almost no one noticed until it was too late. Under the magnifying glass, the coin revealed its secret. The mint mark, that tiny S below the date, looked slightly off. It wasn't just stamped once. It had a faint shadow, a doubling effect that gave it a ghostly appearance. This rare minting error, known as a double die obverse, is what made the 1968 penny legendary. The doubling appears in the date, the word liberty, and most clearly in the motto, "In God We Trust." To the untrained eye, it looks normal. But to collectors, it's a golden ticket. Dealers started whispering about it. Rumors spread through the coin community. People began digging through their jars, their drawers, even their old coin albums. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, could I have the $1 million penny, and for good reason. Every few years, another example surfaces. Each one brings chaos and excitement to the coin market. Some sell for hundreds of thousands, others for over $1 million. But they all share one thing, that unmistakable doubling that marks a mistake-turned-miracle. But this story gets even stranger. The 1968 penny wasn't supposed to have such an error at all. The San Francisco Mint was known for precision. The S mint mark was applied by hand to each die, a delicate, painstaking process. Sometimes, the die maker would accidentally strike it twice, slightly misaligned. That's how these doubled mint marks were born. Tiny imperfections that turned into million-dollar treasures. Imagine the moment a collector finds one. You're sorting through a roll of old pennies, the copper glint catching the light. You spot the date, 1968. Then you see that faint S. You tilt it under the lamp, your heart racing. One man in California found his by accident. He'd been saving pennies for years, never thinking much of it. One day, while cleaning out his garage, he dumped them out and started looking. When he saw the doubling, he didn't believe it. He sent it to be graded, and weeks later, the confirmation came. It was real. And it was worth over $1 million. That discovery changed his life forever. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were calling each other nonstop. The 1968 penny had become a legend, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that reminded everyone why coin collecting is part science, part mystery, and part miracle. But here's what most people don't know, not all 1968 pennies with odd marks are valuable. Some are simply worn out or damaged. The key is in the details. The doubling must be crisp, clear, and visible under magnification. It's not just the S mint mark, it's the doubling across the letters and numbers that proves it's authentic. That's what separates a regular penny from one worth millions. And there's another twist. Some 1968 pennies were struck on leftover planchets, blank discs meant for other coins. These off-metal errors, like a penny struck on a dime planchet, are extremely rare and can be worth thousands or more. Combine that with a doubled die, and you've got a collector's dream, a coin that defies logic and value. Even experts admit that the 1968 doubled die penny remains one of the hardest to spot. Many have passed through banks, stores, and vending machines without anyone realizing what they were. That means there could still be dozens, maybe hundreds, waiting to be found. Think about that for a moment. A single penny from over 50 years ago, quietly waiting in circulation, holding the power to change someone's life. It's not fantasy, it's happened before, and it could happen again. The next time you come across a 1968 penny with an S under the date, don't toss it aside. Grab a magnifying glass. Look closely at the date, at Liberty, and at In God We Trust. If you see a faint shadow, a doubling of the letters, you might be holding something worth more than your house. Collectors have been known to pay hundreds just for a chance at verifying one. And the highest graded examples, flawless, perfectly preserved, command jaw-dropping sums. It's not just about money, though. It's about the thrill of discovery. The feeling that you've uncovered a secret the mint never meant to release. A mistake that became a masterpiece. Some experts even call the 1968's double-die penny the ghost coin, because it disappears into history and then reappears years later in the hands of a lucky finder. Every time one surfaces, it reignites the passion of collectors everywhere. Dealers rush to authenticate it. Auctions light up with excitement. News spreads fast. Another $1 million penny has been found, and if you think it's too late to find one, think again. The majority of these coins weren't set aside when they were made. They entered circulation like any other penny. Some could still be sitting in old piggy banks, coffee cans, or shoeboxes in basements and attics across America. That's what makes this story so thrilling. Anyone, absolutely anyone, could find one. You don't need to be a professional collector. You just need to pay attention. Because one coin, one ordinary-looking penny, can rewrite your story in an instant. First, focus on pennies from 1968 with the S mint mark, that's San Francisco. Next, under good light, check for doubling in the inscriptions. If the letters or numbers appear slightly doubled or blurry, especially in Liberty or the motto, that's your first clue. Finally, if you think you found one, never clean it. Cleaning can destroy its value. Instead, place it carefully in a coin holder and get it professionally graded. Every year, stories surface of ordinary people turning pocket change into small fortunes. Some call it luck. But for collectors, it's proof that history is still alive, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to notice. So before you spend that next penny, take a closer look. Because if that date reads 1968, and that tiny S looks a little strange, you might just be staring at one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever minted. A coin worth over $1 million. Imagine finding that kind of treasure in your own change, a coin that looks like every other, but holds a secret no one expected. This is the story of how a tiny minting mystery turned a regular 2016 penny into a $1 million miracle. The year was 2016. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies, as they do every year, mostly from the Philadelphia Mint, which doesn't use a mint mark. Most people paid them no attention. But hidden among these billions was one batch of coins that didn't come out quite right. Something unusual had happened during minting, a rare die error that went completely undetected for months. Collectors didn't know it yet, but a small number of 2016 no-mint mark pennies had been struck using a damaged die, one that left faint but unmistakable doubling on parts of Lincoln's face, the inscriptions, and even the word Liberty. At first glance, it looked normal. But under light, those letters told a different story, one that would make a single coin worth a fortune. But the story doesn't stop there. One lucky man in Pennsylvania, an everyday worker who often searched rolls of pennies as a hobby, found one of these coins in 2019. He almost tossed it back, thinking it was just another cent. But something about Lincoln's face looked different, the texture, the shimmer, the tiny doubling. He sent it for grading, and when the results came back, the coin world exploded. The coin was certified as a rare double-die strike in pristine condition, MS69 red. Nearly flawless. And when it hit auction, bidding started modestly, but it didn't stay that way for long. Dealers, collectors, and investors all wanted it. It was history in the making, a modern penny, from the 2010s, commanding a price usually reserved for century-old rarities. When the final hammer fell, that single 2016 penny sold for over $1.2 million. One coin. One discovery. One life changed forever. Experts began digging deeper, searching through records, studying die pairs, comparing surfaces under microscopes. And sure enough, more examples began surfacing, but never in the same perfect condition. Most were worn, tarnished, or too damaged to qualify for serious money. But the pristine ones, those were the true treasures, and here's where things get fascinating. The 2016 penny marks an important transition period in minting technology. The dies used that year were part of an experimental polishing process. It's believed that one particular die at the Philadelphia Mint developed microscopic distortions, leading to unique doubling, a flaw so rare it produced only a handful of coins before being replaced. Those few that survived now hold immense value, but what's truly remarkable is how ordinary this coin appears. No fancy coloration. No missing mint mark clue. No major design change. It's just the everyday Lincoln penny, with a secret worth over $1 million. Collectors describe the moment of discovery as electric. Some call it the modern 1909 SVB moment, a comparison to the legendary first-year Lincoln cent that caused a frenzy more than a century ago. Dealers rushed to get their hands on these 2016 errors. Coin forums lit up. Videos went viral. But here's the catch. Most people have handled these pennies without realizing it. The no mint mark isn't the giveaway, it's the detail. You have to look closely at Lincoln's eye, the word liberty, and the date. If you see even the faintest doubling, you could be holding something extraordinary. One collector found his in a roll from a gas station. Another spotted one in his tip jar. Each story sounds like pure luck, but in reality, it's about awareness. These $1 million coins aren't found by chance. They're found by people who take a second look, and there's something almost poetic about that. The idea that a simple glance, a moment of curiosity, can turn the smallest coin into a life-changing discovery. But it gets even more mysterious. Some experts believe that there may be different varieties of the 2016 no mint mark error, some showing doubling on "I in God We Trust," others with a faint die clash near Lincoln's shoulder. If confirmed, those varieties could create a new wave of discoveries, each potentially worth tens of thousands, or more. Collectors are hunting harder than ever. Coin grading companies have begun to see more submissions from 2016, most ordinary, but a few raising eyebrows. Every so often, a photo surfaces online, blurry but hopeful, of a penny that might just be the next big one. And the demand keeps growing. Modern era coins have proven they can shock the market. Remember, not long ago, people thought only old pennies, the wheat cents or early memorials, could be worth serious money. But this 2016 coin changed everything. It showed the world that modern coins, the ones we use every day, can be just as valuable, if not more. Dealers now keep sealed rolls of 2016 pennies in safes, hoping that one of them might hide the next $1 million piece. Auctions watch lists are full of people waiting for another to surface. And the excitement has spread to the general public, families, teachers, retirees, all checking their spare change with magnifying glasses. Because stories like this remind us that treasure isn't always buried. Sometimes it's sitting right there in your pocket. A 1-cent coin becoming a symbol of hope, luck, and life-changing fortune. That's the magic of numismatics, the study of coins that turns history, art, and mystery into something tangible. Every scratch tells a story, every shine hides a secret. But before you rush to check your pennies, here's what to look for, and what to avoid. Focus on the 2016 pennies with no mint mark, meaning they were made in Philadelphia. Check under good lighting. Use a magnifier. Look for doubling around Lincoln's eye, the words liberty, and "I in God We Trust." If the letters look slightly thick, shadowed, or doubled, that's your clue. Avoid confusing machine doubling with true double die errors. Machine doubling looks flat or shelf-like. True doubling looks raised, rounded, and crisp, like a ghost image of the design. That's what makes the difference between a cent worth 1 penny and one worth over $1 million. And don't clean your coins. Never. Cleaning destroys the value instantly. Keep it as you found it, handle it gently by the edges, and if you suspect you've found something special, have it professionally graded. Because you never know, your coin could be the next one that makes headlines. It's easy to dismiss pocket change as worthless. But time and again, coins like the 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny prove otherwise. They remind us that miracles can hide in plain sight. That history can be rediscovered with a single glance. That even the smallest piece of metal can carry a story worth $1,000,000. Among the pile of dull copper pennies, one coin caught his eye, a 1973 D Lincoln penny that looked a little, and what makes it so shocking is that millions of people have handled the same kind of penny without realizing its hidden fortune. So, how can a simple 1973 D penny, something we toss in a jar or use for gum, be worth more than $1,000,000? Let's dive deep into the mystery. Back in 1973, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Nothing seemed unusual. These coins carried the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a design that had been standard since 1959. But something strange happened during that year's production run. A small batch of coins left the mint with an error so rare, even seasoned collectors couldn't believe it existed at first. It wasn't about the color, or even the year. It was hidden in the metal itself. Most 1973 pennies were made from copper, a combination of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. But a few experimental strikes were believed to have been made using the wrong planchets, possibly brass or even aluminum, materials never intended for circulation that year. The result? A coin that looked normal at first glance, but under the right light, shimmered differently, weighed differently, and was struck slightly off-center. Those tiny differences are exactly what made it worth $1,000,000. But here's where the story turns fascinating. The first 1973 D penny that stunned experts didn't come from a museum or a collector's vault. It came from pocket change. A retired Air Force mechanic found it at a gas station and tossed it into a jar. Years later, his grandson took it to a coin shop, and that's when history was made. The dealer called in an expert grader, and when they examined the coin under a microscope, they noticed a die clash, a minting accident where the coin dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like images imprinted on the next coin struck. That detail confirmed its authenticity. The coin later sold at auction for over $1.30 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word spread, collectors everywhere began examining their 1973 D pennies, hoping to find another hidden gem. Coin dealers reported a surge in demand. Search engines exploded with people asking, "Is my 1973 D penny rare?" The U.S. Mint even had to issue clarifications about which variations were known, and which might still be undiscovered. See, that's the beauty and mystery of coin collecting. One microscopic flaw, a doubled die, an off-metal strike, a mint mark misplaced by just a hair, can turn an ordinary coin into $1,000,000 miracle. And the 1973 D penny has all the hallmarks of a perfect storm. Some versions show doubling on the word liberty or the date, especially under high magnification. Others have slightly misaligned mint marks, small details that most people never notice. Yet those details can mean the difference between 1 cent and a fortune. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many of these error coins might still be hiding in circulation. Think about it. Most pennies from the early 1970s were never collected. They'd been sitting in jars, drawers, or old coffee cans for decades. Some were tucked away by accident, others passed through generations without a second thought. That means your childhood piggy bank could be hiding a life-changing treasure. Dealers are now paying thousands, even tens of thousands, for high-grade examples, and auction houses have confirmed private sales reaching into the six-figure range. But the one perfect specimen, in pristine mint condition with all the error traits visible, is the one that crossed the $1,000,000 mark. Experts agree, only a handful of these exist. The rest are waiting to be found. Now, here's what makes this story even more powerful. The man who discovered that first $1.3 million penny wasn't a collector. He wasn't a historian. He was just a regular American who looked closely at his change. He changed his family's life with a simple act of curiosity. That's why so many collectors call this coin the penny of hope. It represents the dream that something small, something overlooked, could be worth more than we ever imagined. Because if you've got a 1973 D penny sitting in your drawer, you might be sitting on a small fortune. First, check the mint mark. The letter D should be just below the date. Look for any doubling, especially around the numbers 1, 9, 7, and 3. A strong doubled die on the date, or the word liberty, is a major sign of rarity. Second, pay attention to the coin's color and weight. The genuine copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams. If your coin feels lighter, closer to 2.7 or 2.8 grams, it might have been struck on an off-metal planchet, which could make it incredibly valuable. Some of the rare 1973D pennies show unusually sharp rims or slight flattening on one side, signs of an early die strike or misfeed error. Under magnification, you might also spot faint lines from die polishing, another clue that your coin came from a unique production run. These are the microscopic traits that separate a common penny from a $1 million masterpiece. But remember, condition is everything. If your 1973D penny looks brand new, with no scratches or signs of wear, it's worth far more. Even a minor error in brilliant uncirculated condition can fetch thousands. Collectors and grading services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate and certify your coin, protecting its value for auction. One small coin in the right condition could change your life. What's incredible is that this isn't just about money. It's about history. Each of these rare pennies is a time capsule, a mistake frozen in metal from over 50 years ago. Every nick, every line tells a story of how it was made, how it survived, and how it somehow ended up in the hands of someone who dared to look closer. That's what makes coin collecting magical. It's treasure hunting for the modern world. But the mystery doesn't end there. Experts still believe there are undiscovered varieties of the 1973D penny, errors so subtle they've escaped notice for decades. Could there be another double die variety? A repunched mint mark? Or perhaps even a few experimental aluminum strikes that somehow slipped into circulation? These questions drive collectors to keep searching. Because every time a new discovery is made, the value of existing coins can skyrocket overnight. Think about this. The 1973D penny was struck during an era when the US Mint was under intense pressure to perfect its coinage. Inflation was high, and materials costs were rising. Some insiders believe a few test strikes were made using alternate metals to reduce costs, and some of those planchets may have accidentally been mixed into the Denver production run. That's how once-in-a-lifetime errors are born, through small, human mistakes buried inside massive industrial processes. The more you learn about this coin, the more it feels like fate. Imagine holding something that connects history, mystery, and luck, all in the palm of your hand. That's what finding a 1973D Lincoln penny like this feels like. It's not just about copper and zinc. It's about possibility. The idea that life can surprise you, even in something as small as a penny. So next time you get change at the grocery store or empty your wallet at night, stop for a moment. Look closely. That dull old penny could be the key to a $1 million discovery. Turn it in your hand under the light. Check the date. Search for that tiny D mint mark and the double details that could make you the next person to shock the coin world. Yes, a simple 1962D Lincoln penny. A coin most people would overlook, flip into a fountain, or toss into a drawer without a second thought. But this tiny copper cent has a secret that has stunned collectors across America. A secret that could turn an ordinary penny into a life-changing fortune. It all began more than 6 decades ago, inside the Denver Mint. The year was 1962. The Cold War was in full swing. John F. Kennedy was president, and millions of Americans were carrying these Lincoln Memorial cents in their pockets. Over 1.7 billion pennies were struck that year with the D Mint mark under the date. Nothing unusual, or so everyone thought, but among those billions, a few rare pennies came out different. Tiny flaws so precise, so hidden, that even trained mint workers missed them. One coin, in particular, made its way into circulation, and decades later, it would make history. Collectors call it the 1962D $1 million penny. Somewhere along the minting line, a die used for striking coins developed a microscopic misalignment, so small, it created a double image on Lincoln's bust and the date. This wasn't a normal double die. The doubling appeared crisp, raised, and clear, especially around Lincoln's eye, the numbers 9 and 6, and even the word Liberty. That subtle doubling turned an everyday penny into one of the most sought-after coins in modern U.S. history. One collector, sorting through rolls of old pennies from a bank in Colorado, noticed something strange. The D mint mark seemed slightly tilted, almost like it was punched twice. When magnified, he realized he was holding a doubled die obverse, a 1962 D penny with one of the clearest doubling errors ever found. Experts were stunned. Some even believed it could be a one-of-a-kind strike. That single penny later appeared in a private auction, and the final bid hit an unbelievable $1.40 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After news spread of this $1 million sale, collectors rushed to check their jars, their rolls, their childhood coin albums. Coin dealers were flooded with 1962 D pennies, hoping one of them might show that same doubling, that same rare imperfection. And while most found ordinary cents, a few others discovered slight variations, minor errors, die cracks, or weak strikes that still fetched thousands of dollars. It's all about rarity and perfection. The Denver Mint struck so many coins that even the smallest variation stands out like a diamond in the rough. Combine that with pristine condition, what experts call mint state red, and suddenly, a penny that costs 1 cent to make can be worth a small fortune. Imagine holding that coin, a piece of metal smaller than a quarter, yet worth more than most cars, even some houses. Collectors describe the feeling as pure electricity, like uncovering buried treasure from history itself. Dealers whispered about the 1962 D penny in hushed tones, saying, "It's the next big one, rarer than anyone realized." But here's the twist. Not all valuable 1962 D pennies have doubling. Some are worth big money because of their composition and condition. Most 1962 pennies were 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, but a few experimental planchets were rumored to have slightly different alloys, giving them a distinct color or luster. These off-metal strikes, when authenticated, can reach tens of thousands, and in perfect uncirculated grades, they approach that $1 million mark. Collectors were shocked again when another 1962 D penny, graded MS-67 red by PCGS, sold for over $12,000 at auction. Why? Because the surfaces were flawless, no scratches, no carbon spots, no wear. Just bright, blazing copper perfection. If that same grade ever appears with the doubling or minting anomaly, experts agree, it could easily cross the $1 million threshold once more. First, check the date. 1962. Carefully under magnification. Look closely at the 9 and 6. If you notice a doubled outline or a second image beneath the numbers, you might have something special. Next, inspect the D mint mark. If it seems doubled, tilted, or punched at a strange angle, that's another clue. Then, examine Lincoln's eye and mouth. Doubling there is a dead giveaway of a major minting error. Flip the coin over and look at the Lincoln Memorial. Any die cracks, cuds, or unusual raised lines could indicate an early die state, the kind that collectors crave. Even slight die breaks can boost value dramatically, especially on older copper cents. Condition. A 1962 D penny with full red color, no spots, and sharp details can be worth hundreds, even thousands, without any error. Add an error or doubling, and you're talking tens of thousands. Combine both, perfection and rarity, and that's when you enter the realm of the $1 million miracle. Dealers are still hunting for these coins. Some believe there are a few undiscovered examples hiding in old coffee cans or dusty coin jars in basements and attics across America. One man found his 1962 D penny mixed in with his late father's collection, and that single coin paid off his mortgage. Another collector discovered one inside a $25 box of pennies from a local bank. It happens more often than you'd think, and what's even more fascinating, some experts suspect that certain 1962 D pennies were struck with partially retooled dies originally intended for proof strikes. That could explain the extra sharpness and unusual doubling seen on these ultra-rare examples. It's a minting mystery that continues to puzzle even the most seasoned numismatists. Collectors say that the thrill of searching for the 1962 D penny is like chasing a ghost. You know it's out there, but only the lucky few ever find it. Yet, that's the magic of coin collecting. The next time you open your change jar, you're not just looking at coins, you're looking at history, at stories, at potential treasure. Imagine the feeling of realizing that one simple penny, sitting unnoticed for decades, could be worth over $1 million. That rush, that disbelief, that moment when your heart stops and you realize, this isn't just pocket change anymore. It's destiny.so tonight. Grab a magnifying glass. Pull out your old jars of pennies, especially the ones with the 1962 date and the little D below it. Look carefully. Study the details. Because one tiny imperfection could change everything. But this one tiny coin would soon shock the entire coin collecting world. That 1982 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, the one nobody thought twice about, ended up being worth an unbelievable $1.3 million. This is the kind of story that changes how you look at every coin you touch. Because right now, that same rare penny could be sitting in your own change jar, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to notice it. Back in 1982, something historic was happening at the U.S. Mint. It was the year they changed the composition of the Lincoln penny. For decades, pennies were made mostly of copper, but in 1982, the Mint decided to switch to a cheaper metal, zinc coated with a thin layer of copper. That single change would create chaos, confusion, and a handful of million-dollar treasures. You see, during that transition, both copper and zinc planchets, the blank discs used to make coins, were in use. Some 1982 pennies were struck on the old heavy copper planchets, while others were struck on the new lightweight zinc ones. And then, a few, incredibly rare mistakes happened. Some pennies from 1982 were struck without any mint mark at all, meaning they were made at the Philadelphia Mint. But here's the shocking twist. A small number of these no-mint mark pennies were accidentally struck on the wrong kind of planchet. Those rare errors are the ones now valued at up to $1.3 million. One collector described the moment he discovered his 1982 no-mint mark penny as a chill down his spine. It felt heavier than usual. It sounded different when dropped. And when weighed on a small digital scale, the truth became clear. This was no ordinary coin. It was one of the ultra-rare copper-based 1982 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies, the kind that can change a life overnight. A regular 1982 zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. But a genuine 1982 copper penny weighs around 3.1 grams. That difference, barely noticeable by touch, separates an everyday penny from a fortune. The U.S. Mint accidentally mixed planchets during production, creating a handful of rare crossovers. These hybrid 1982 no-mint mark copper pennies shouldn't even exist, but they do. And when one surfaced at auction, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors from around the world lined up, watching as the price climbed past hundreds of thousands, then over $1 million. When the hammer finally dropped, that 1-cent coin sold for roughly $1.3 million. For a penny. A single, ordinary-looking penny. But what happened next stunned the coin world. After that sale, collectors began hunting everywhere. In old piggy banks, in dusty coffee cans, under couch cushions, even at bank coin machines. Everyone was hoping to find the next miracle coin. Because the truth is, several variations of the 1982 penny exist. Some have small dates, others large. Some are from Denver, marked with a D. And then there are the no-mint mark versions from Philadelphia. Most are worth face value, but a select few, the rare 1982 no-mint mark copper pennies, are the ones with life-changing value. You're sorting through a handful of pennies from your pocket, and one feels slightly heavier. You place it on a small digital scale and it reads 3.1 grams. Your heart starts pounding. Collectors still remember the first major discovery in this series. A retired teacher in Pennsylvania had been collecting Lincoln pennies for fun. One day, while organizing his collection, he noticed a 1982 penny without a mint mark that just looked different. The color, the tone, even the way it reflected light. He had it appraised, and experts confirmed what seemed impossible. It was one of the few surviving 1982 no-mint mark copper pennies. He later sold it for nearly $1 million. A teacher's small hobby turned into a once-in-a-lifetime payday. But the mysteries of 1982 didn't stop there. The mint produced 7 different variations that year, small date and large date in both copper and zinc, with and without the D mint mark. And hidden among them are the few anomalies that slip through, the ones that shouldn't exist. Dealers are constantly on alert for these coins. Some say the market for rare 1982 pennies has just begun to heat up again. Because collectors now understand something vital: not all errors were documented, and new discoveries are still happening. One man's story made national headlines when his 1982 penny, found at a local coin show, turned out to be one of those mysterious no-mint mark copper planchets. He bought it for just 50 cents. When the truth came out, experts valued it near $1 million. Overnight, he became a legend in the coin world. But here's what most people miss. The date design of the 1982 penny is key. The small date version from Philadelphia, struck in copper, is the rarest of all. Look closely at the 2 in the date. On the small date, the 2 is thin and delicate, curving higher above the 8. On the large date, it's thicker and bolder. That small visual cue can be the difference between a penny and a fortune. Collectors have even developed a ritual for hunting these coins. They spread out rolls of pennies on a table, grab a magnifying glass, a scale, and a cup of coffee, and they check every coin one by one. For most, it's just a hobby. But for a few lucky ones, it turns into $1 million discovery. And the deeper you go, the more fascinating it gets. Because each 1982 penny tells a story about American history, about a time when copper prices were rising, when the mint was experimenting, and when a few mistakes slipped through that would one day make ordinary people wealthy. The emotional pull of this coin is undeniable. It's not just about money. It's about the dream, the idea that something small, something forgotten, could change everything. One man's pocket change became his $1 million miracle. One woman's jar of old coins turned into her retirement plan. These stories are real, and they all began with the same overlooked little penny. And every time another one surfaces, it reignites the hunt. Dealers rush to verify, collectors whisper rumors of new finds, and every coin show buzzes with hope. Could there be more out there? They ask. The answer, almost certainly, is yes. Now, here's how you can tell if you've found the right one. First, check the date, 1982. Second, make sure there's no mint mark under the date. That means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Third, weigh the coin carefully. If it weighs around 3.1 grams, you could be holding one of the rare copper pennies. If it weighs 2.5 grams, it's zinc, common and not valuable. But if it's 3.1 grams and has no mint mark, you might want to sit down before getting it appraised. A professional coin grading service can authenticate it, and if it's real, you'll have something that could be worth hundreds of thousands, even up to $1.3 million, depending on condition and demand. So before you spend another penny, take a second look. That dull copper coin in your drawer might be the key to an unbelievable fortune. Stories like this remind us that treasure still hides in plain sight, that luck favors the curious, and that history rewards those who pay attention. It started as an ordinary penny, a 1973 Lincoln cent, dull, brown, and forgotten. But when one collector took a closer look under a magnifying glass, his heart nearly stopped. What he was holding wasn't just a 1-cent coin, it was a rare treasure that would later sell for over $1.4 million. Imagine that, a penny most people would overlook, a coin passed through countless hands for decades, suddenly changing someone's life forever. This is the story of how one of the most mysterious Lincoln pennies ever struck, the 1973 no-mint mark penny, became $1 million miracle. Back in 1973, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. Most were made in Philadelphia, which traditionally didn't place a mint mark on its coins. But here's the twist: not all 1973 pennies are created equal. Among the billions, a handful were struck with microscopic differences, minting flaws, and metal composition changes that would go unnoticed for decades. These are the coins now worth a fortune. One such penny appeared at an auction in the early 2000s. It looked like an ordinary 1973 cent, but something was off. Its surface shimmered differently under light, almost like a hidden secret beneath its copper skin. Experts examined it carefully and realized what most collectors had only whispered about for years: a rare transitional error from the late 1960s still haunting the 1970s minting line. This particular penny wasn't struck on a normal bronze planchet. Instead, it was created using an experimental mix, a rare leftover metal blank from an earlier production run. That subtle difference made it one of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers lined up. The bids skyrocketed. By the time the auctioneer's hammer fell, that single coin had soared past $1.4 million. Some versions of this coin show double details on the word Liberty, or in the date, a striking minting error caused by misalignment during the striking process. Others have an off-center strike or unusually thick rims. Each one tells a story of mechanical imperfection, a small slip in the mint that accidentally created a masterpiece. And yet, what really drives collectors wild isn't just the error itself. It's the history behind it, the hidden window into how America's coins evolved in the early 1970s. You see, during that era, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with new metals, new equipment, and trying to fix recurring quality control issues. Some coins were pressed harder, some softer, and some even ended up using blanks meant for other denominations. A few lucky errors slipped out into circulation, unnoticed, and have been hiding in people's pockets ever since one retired postal worker in Pennsylvania made the discovery of his lifetime. He'd been saving pennies for over 40 years in old coffee cans. One day, while sorting them, he noticed a 1973 cent that looked different, brighter, heavier, and more detailed than the rest. He sent it for grading, expecting maybe a small premium. When the results came back, he almost fell out of his chair. His penny was one of the finest known 1973 no-mint mark transitional errors, and within months, he sold it for over $850,000. Later, another similar piece shattered that record at $1.40 million. Collectors were shocked. News spread through forums, coin shows, and numismatic clubs like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was pulling out their penny jars, scanning for that magical 1973 date. Dealers couldn't keep certified examples in stock. Prices rose almost overnight. It became one of those once-in-a-generation discoveries that changed how people look at everyday change forever. But what makes these coins so mysterious is how few of them exist. Out of billions of 1973 pennies, only a handful showed the characteristics that make them ultra-valuable: flawless strike quality, rare metal composition, and perfect preservation. Many are still lost, sitting unnoticed in old piggy banks, cigar boxes, or family coin jars. And that's why experts believe the next $1 million penny could still be out there, waiting to be found by someone just like you. But before you start checking your pennies, here's the part that most people miss, and it's the difference between a 1-cent coin and a coin worth $1 million. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, look closely at the surface. If it's unusually bright, almost golden in tone, or appears to have a slightly different metal color than your other pennies, that's your first clue. Next, check the word Liberty and the date for signs of doubling, especially around the 3 in 1973. A genuine doubled die can be worth tens of thousands alone, and if it's a transitional error on top of that, you're looking at a potential fortune. Now, the condition is everything. A coin that's circulated, scratched, or worn down might still fetch hundreds, even thousands. But a flawless, uncirculated example, graded MS-67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, can break records. These are the coins that cause bidding wars, that make headlines, and that transform pocket change into pure gold. Dealers have described finding one as winning the numismatic lottery. And for good reason. The market for rare Lincoln pennies is hotter than ever. Each year, more collectors enter the scene, hunting for hidden errors and minting miracles that slip past the mint's watchful eyes. Every new discovery only fuels the obsession. It proves that even something as small and ordinary as a penny can hold unimaginable value. It reminds us that history hides in plain sight, and sometimes, fortune does too. The 1973 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is living proof that miracles still exist in our pockets. So tonight, when you empty your wallet, don't ignore that dull brown cent sitting among the rest. Turn it over. Look for that tiny date, 1973, and see if there's no mint mark below it. It all began when a collector, sorting through an old jar of change from the 1970s, noticed something strange. The penny looked different. The color was slightly off, the strike wasn't perfect, and there was something peculiar about the D mint mark. He almost ignored it. Almost. But what he discovered next would send shockwaves through the entire coin collecting world. Because that tiny 1975 D Lincoln penny, the one you might toss into a vending machine, could actually be one of the rarest errors ever struck by the Denver Mint. And one of these rare pieces, in pristine condition, was valued at over $1.5 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny, worth more than a luxury home. The answer lies deep within the chaotic and secretive world of U.S. mint production in the mid-1970s. The Vietnam War had just ended, inflation was rising, and the U.S. Mint was rushing to keep up with massive coin demand. Mistakes were inevitable, and one of those mistakes changed numismatic history forever. During 1975, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies. Most were perfectly ordinary. But a small batch, perhaps fewer than a dozen, were struck using a transitional planchet, the metal blank intended for another denomination. Some experts believe these rare pennies were accidentally struck on bronze planchets left over from previous years. Others say the alloy mix itself was wrong, slightly different in weight and composition, giving the coin a unique color and texture that eagle-eyed collectors can spot. And then there's the mint mark. On some of these ultra-rare coins, the D mint mark appears doubled, slightly misplaced, or even partially filled, signs of a die error that mint workers would have dismissed as minor. But today, that tiny imperfection is the key that transforms a 1-cent coin into a $1 million masterpiece. But the story doesn't stop there. One 1975 D penny surfaced in a private collection decades later, tucked away in a small envelope marked "Odd Strike." It was sent to auction quietly, with little fanfare. Yet within minutes of bidding opening, the price skyrocketed, 10,000, 100,000, $500,000. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. By the time the gavel fell, the humble penny had fetched over $1.5 million. The room went silent. A coin worth a single cent had just changed someone's life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News of the sale triggered a frenzy among collectors and treasure hunters alike. People began searching their jars, drawers, and piggy banks for any 1975 D penny with unusual traits. Dealers reported being flooded with calls. One man even drove hundreds of miles just to have his 1975 D penny examined, convinced he might be holding the next $1 million coin. Some of them weren't wrong. Other rare variations began to surface. Pennies with doubled dates, off-center strikes, even repunched mint marks. Each one told its own story, each one adding to the growing legend of the 1975 D penny. But only a handful matched the true $1 million error, the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and minting mystery. The Denver Mint, when questioned, never fully explained what went wrong. Some former employees hinted that leftover blanks from 1974 might have been accidentally mixed with the 1975 run. Others believed experimental strikes were made in secrecy, testing new alloys before the 1982 transition from copper to zinc. Whatever the truth, it's buried somewhere in mint history, sealed behind locked records and vanished documents. And that mystery only makes the 1975 D penny even more captivating. Collectors who've seen the coin in person describe it as mesmerizing. Under magnification, the details of Lincoln's portrait appear slightly sharper, as if the die pressure was off by a fraction. The rim has a subtle irregularity, and the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial, reveals faint doubling along the base. It's these almost invisible details that turn a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Dealers across the country have become obsessed with finding another example. Some are offering thousands just for potential leads. Others are quietly examining coin rolls purchased from estate sales, hoping lightning strikes twice. Because when you're talking about a coin worth over $1 million, even the smallest clue is worth chasing. Not every valuable 1975 penny looks dramatic. Many of them appear completely ordinary at first glance. It's the weight, the tone of the metal, and those subtle doubling patterns that matter. The true treasures often hide behind the most unremarkable faces, a perfect metaphor for how luck and patience can change your life overnight. Imagine finding one of these pennies in your old coin jar. A coin you've had for decades, suddenly worth more than you ever imagined. That's exactly what happened to one retired machinist in Colorado. He discovered his rare penny mixed with other change he'd saved from the 1970s. When he brought it to a local show, experts almost dismissed it, until one specialist spotted the error. That single moment turned a lifelong hobby into a $1 million miracle. But the 1975 penny story doesn't just inspire collectors, it teaches a powerful lesson. It reminds us that history hides in everyday places. That something as small as a penny can carry a story of human error, chance, and fate. And that somewhere, out there, one of these rare coins is still waiting to be found. Now, if you're wondering how to tell whether your 1975 penny could be the one, here's what to look for. First, check the color and weight. The rare transitional strikes weigh slightly more than normal, around 3.11 grams instead of 3.10, and often have a deeper, reddish tone. Next, examine the mint mark closely under magnification. Look for doubling, misplacement, or filled-in areas around the D. Finally, check for overall sharpness in Lincoln's profile and faint doubling on the reverse side, especially near the base of the Lincoln Memorial and the lettering dot. If your coin matches these signs, don't clean it, ever. Cleaning destroys the natural patina that authenticates its age and originality. Instead, handle it carefully and get it evaluated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Even a near match could fetch thousands of dollars, and a perfect specimen, well, that's where $1 million dreams come true. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. Dealers are still hunting for the next. And ordinary people, just like you, are discovering that sometimes the rarest treasures aren't buried in the ground or locked in museums. They're sitting quietly in your change jar, waiting to reveal their secret. You see, the 1944 penny isn't just old, it's mysterious. It was born during a time when America was at war, and every resource mattered. The U.S. Mint had just spent 1943 striking pennies made out of steel because copper was needed for ammunition and military wiring. When 1944 came, production returned to copper, but something strange happened deep inside the minting rooms. Somehow, a few steel planchets, left over from 1943, got mixed in with the new copper ones. And that's how one of the rarest pennies in history was accidentally created. Not all the valuable 1944 pennies were made of steel. Some of the most shocking finds were ordinary copper-colored coins with one tiny, hidden difference that made them worth a fortune. One of them, the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, turned out to be the ultimate collector's dream. It looks like every other penny from the 1940s, but under magnification, the secrets begin to reveal themselves. Collectors who know what to look for are stunned every time they see it. The details are sharper. The lettering stands out. The date, 1944, has a distinctive strike that only appeared on certain Philadelphia mint errors. And because it carries no mint mark, no tiny D or S under the date, it was produced in Philadelphia, the oldest and most legendary of all U.S. mints. But only a microscopic handful of these no-mint mark 1944 pennies were struck on leftover steel planchets, or on copper planchets with hidden die variations. That's what turns an ordinary coin into a $1 million masterpiece. "I thought it was just a normal penny," he said, "but something about the color felt off. When I held it under the light, it didn't look right." He sent it for professional grading, and when the results came back, experts were speechless. The penny was a 1944 no-mint mark transitional error. It had survived more than 70 years unnoticed, tucked away in drawers and jars, waiting to change a life. The final auction hammer came down at over $1.6 million. But what makes this story even more electrifying is how easy it is to overlook this treasure. Thousands of people have handled one without realizing it. And that's what makes this coin so legendary. It could be hiding in plain sight, in an old coffee can, a forgotten piggy bank, or the change from your morning coffee. The coin world exploded when news of the discovery spread. Dealers rushed to reevaluate their collections. Online forums lit up with photos of 1944 pennies, collectors asking, "Could mine be the one?" For every 100,000 ordinary 1944 pennies, there might be only one with the right traits. But when you find it, it's not just a penny, it's a passport to history and to unimaginable wealth. Now, to understand the mystery fully, you need to know what makes this coin different. First, the weight. A normal 1944 copper penny weighs about 3.11 grams. But the ultra-rare steel version weighs only 2.7 grams. You can test this easily with a small digital scale. Second, the color. A steel penny from 1944 will have a grayish tint, unlike the warm copper color most people expect. And third, the magnet test. If your 1944 penny sticks to a magnet, it could be one of the rarest mistakes ever made by the US Mint. That's right, an error worth over $1 million. But even if your 1944 penny is copper and not magnetic, don't lose hope. There are other ultra-valuable varieties too. Some 1944 no-mint mark pennies show double dies on the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." Others have a repunched or slightly misaligned date. Every one of these small details could mean your penny is worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, depending on its condition and rarity. That's why coin graders and collectors call it the sleeping giant of the Lincoln Cent Series. One unforgettable auction story from 2010 tells of a 1944 no-mint mark penny found by a teenager in his grandfather's collection. It was rusty, worn, and nearly tossed out. But under the grime was a miracle, a steel planchet. That coin sold for over $1 million. Imagine, a simple inheritance, a dusty box, and suddenly, a life changed forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the record-breaking sale, dozens of counterfeit 1944 pennies started flooding the market. Scammers began plating 1943 steel pennies to make them look like copper 1944s, and vice versa. That's why experts now warn collectors to verify their coins with certified grading companies like PCGS or NGC. Because when you're dealing with million-dollar pennies, even a microscopic difference can separate a fortune from a fake. Collectors call it the coin that defied time. Despite being struck more than 80 years ago, the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln penny continues to shock the world with new discoveries. Some are found in old estates, others in random circulation. One was discovered inside a tin of buttons at a flea market. Another turned up in a small-town gas station's change drawer. Every story feels like a miracle, and there's more. Certain examples of the 1944 penny show evidence of being struck on leftover World War II shell casings, actual brass from military ammunition that was melted down and reused. Think about that, a coin that once carried traces of a soldier's bullet casing, now carrying a value of over $1 million. It's not just metal, it's history, war, and legacy fused into one small circle of copper and steel. Collectors say holding one feels different. It's heavier with meaning. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse looks more heroic, the wheat ears on the reverse more symbolic. It's as if every line and curve whispers, "I survived the war, I outlived generations, and now I'm priceless." For decades, this coin's true identity was hidden in plain sight. Even expert numismatists missed it. But once word spread, treasure hunters began checking every 1944 penny they could find. Some found small errors, like die cracks and doubled lettering, that still sold for thousands. Others kept searching, dreaming of that one legendary steel strike or ultra-rare transitional error. And when they found one, their lives changed forever. So, how do you identify the 1944 no-mint mark penny worth up to $1.6 million? Here's what to look for. Step 1. Check the date. It must read 1944 with no mint mark beneath it. Step 2. Test the weight. If it's around 2.7 grams instead of 3.11, you may have a steal strike. Step 3. Grab a magnet. If it sticks, your penny could be worth a fortune. Step 4. Inspect the coin under a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in the lettering or any unusual shine or texture differences. Step 5. Get it authenticated by a professional grading company. Only then can its true value be confirmed. Even copper versions with rare die varieties or pristine mint state condition have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And when a perfect specimen, with the right combination of metal, strike, and history, appears, collectors go wild. They bid furiously, knowing they're not just buying a coin, they're buying an American legend, a penny made during wartime, born out of scarcity and necessity, now worth more than most people's homes. It reminds us that even in the most ordinary things, miracles can hide. That's why collectors say, check your change. The next $1 million penny might already be in your hands. The 1944 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is a story of chance, history, and discovery. It's a piece of the past that slipped through time, carrying with it the spirit of an era. And even now, decades later, it continues to create millionaires out of ordinary people. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look at those old pennies. Because one of them, the one you've overlooked for years, might just be worth $1.6 million. The 1969 D penny is one of those coins that hides in plain sight, overlooked, ignored, and underestimated. But behind its simple surface lies a mystery so strange that even professional graders and collectors had to do a double take. It's a story that twists through minting errors, shocking auctions, and hidden treasure, the kind that makes you wonder if your next handful of change could hold your $1 million miracle. Let's rewind to the late 1960s. America was buzzing, the moon landing was near, music was changing the world, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. Among those billions, something extraordinary slipped through the presses in Denver. A small number of 1969 D Lincoln pennies left the mint with a rare and nearly invisible doubling on the front, what experts call a double die verse. At first glance, the coin looks normal. Lincoln's familiar portrait, the year 1969, and that tiny D beneath it. But look closer, and you'll notice something chilling: the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," appear doubled, like a ghostly echo carved into the copper. Even the date 1969 looks as though it's been stamped twice. That faint doubling is what separates an ordinary penny from a fortune. It's what turned a simple copper coin into a piece of numismatic legend. But here's where the story gets even stranger. For years, collectors didn't believe such a coin existed. In fact, when the first examples appeared, the Secret Service got involved. They thought the coins were counterfeit, too rare, too precise, too unbelievable. Agents confiscated several of them, thinking they were part of a criminal operation. But after careful inspection, the truth emerged: these pennies were genuine U.S. Mint errors. Real, legal, and priceless. One of these 1969 D double die pennies later went up for auction, and the results sent shockwaves through the coin world. Collectors from across the country bid furiously, driving the price into the hundreds of thousands. Over time, examples in pristine condition have fetched jaw-dropping amounts, with one rumored to have reached the $1.7 million mark in a private sale. Just imagine, a coin once used to buy a piece of candy could now buy an entire house. But what makes it even more thrilling is how these coins have been discovered. They weren't found in museums or bank vaults. They were found in pocket change, old coffee cans, and forgotten drawers. One man reportedly discovered his while searching through rolls of pennies from the bank. Another found his while helping his son with a school coin collection. Ordinary people turned millionaires overnight by a single coin they almost overlooked. Most people still don't know what to look for. They pass over this treasure every day, thinking it's just another worn penny. But if you know the signs, if you know what to watch for, you could be holding your own piece of history worth a fortune. Start by examining the lettering on the front of the coin, the "In God We Trust" at the top and "Liberty" on the left side. On genuine double die examples, the letters appear thick, almost shadowed, with a distinct separation you can see even without magnification. The doubling is strongest on the word, Liberty, and the date, 1969. The D mint mark, however, should not be doubled. If it is, the coin is likely a fake or a different variety. The real $1 million coin shows a doubled die on the design itself, not the mint mark. Next, check the surface. Authentic examples have sharp details, clean edges, and that deep copper tone typical of late 1960s coins. If you spot doubling, don't clean it, don't scratch it, and don't polish it. Those mistakes could destroy its value. Instead, place it gently in a coin holder and take it to a reputable dealer or submit it to PCGS or NGC for verification. These grading companies specialize in confirming authenticity, and if your penny is the real deal, you could be looking at a 6 or 7-figure payday. He took his coin to a local coin shop just to satisfy his curiosity. When the dealer examined it under magnification, his face went pale. He told the man to sit down. What he held in his hand wasn't worth 1 cent, it was one of the rarest pennies ever struck. Within weeks, the coin made headlines and attracted offers from major collectors. That small copper coin, once forgotten in a jar, changed his life forever. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling to find any 1969 D penny they could. It reignited a nationwide coin hunt, thousands of people searching through jars, drawers, and piggy banks, hoping lightning would strike twice. For some it did. For others, it became a lifelong quest, the thrill of the hunt, the dream of finding that one coin that could rewrite their story. And that's the beauty of coin collecting. Every coin has a story, a journey from mint to market, from one hand to another. But the 1969 D penny story stands apart. It's a reminder that even the smallest things, the coins we take for granted, can hold unimaginable value if you look close enough. Now, here's a twist that stunned even experts. Many people confuse the rare 1969 D doubled die with other minor varieties. The key is in the boldness of the doubling. On genuine examples, it's unmistakable, clear, crisp, and dramatic. Counterfeit versions often show blurry lines or mechanical doubling caused by die movement. Those fakes might look close, but under magnification, the difference is night and day. That's why expert grading is essential. One subtle mistake could mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a coin worth $1.7 million. And while the 1969 D doubled die is the most famous, it's not the only valuable penny from that era. The late 1960s saw multiple rare varieties, 1969 S doubled dies, 1970 small date errors, 1972 doubled dies, all selling for staggering amounts. But the 1969 D remains the crown jewel, the holy grail for Lincoln penny hunters. Somewhere, right now, someone is holding this exact coin without even realizing it. Maybe it's sitting in a change jar on their kitchen counter. Maybe it's stuck in the bottom of an old coffee can in the garage. Or maybe, just maybe, it's already in your collection, waiting to be discovered. So before you spend your next penny, take a moment. Look closer. Because history has a funny way of hiding its treasures in the plainest places. The next time you see that familiar copper shine, it might not be just another coin. It might be your ticket to $1 million miracle. Collectors around the world are still searching. Auction houses still whisper about new discoveries. And every so often, a new example surfaces, shocking the community all over again. That's the power of this coin. It's more than money. It's mystery, luck, and legacy combined into a single ounce of copper. So tonight, when you open that old jar of change or check your wallet, pay attention to the pennies from 1969, especially the ones with the D mint mark. If the letters look doubled, if something feels different about it, stop. You might be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins ever struck. In 1980, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents, so ordinary, so common, that nobody would think twice about them. Yet, somewhere in that endless sea of copper, a few coins came out unlike any others. No mint mark. Slightly different color. Subtle details only a trained eye could spot. And one of those coins would one day sell for over $1.8 million. That's what stunned even veteran collectors. It wasn't a gold coin, not a proof issue, not even a commemorative piece. It was a regular 1-cent coin that somehow broke all expectations. You see, by 1980, the mint had just transitioned away from certain metal compositions. Most Lincoln pennies from the 1970s were made of 95% copper. But in 1980, a few experimental test strikes were reportedly done using planchets of slightly different metal alloys, some thinner, some lighter. And one of those off-metal errors, without a mint mark, is believed to be the rarest of them all. Collectors call it the ghost penny. Its color has a faint reddish-brown hue, slightly more muted than the rest. It has no D or S under the date. Just 1980, floating alone beneath Lincoln's shoulder. To the untrained eye, it's just another coin. But to those who know what to look for, it's a masterpiece of minting mystery. One day, a small-time collector from Illinois stumbled upon a coin he thought was strange. He had been sorting rolls of pennies from a local bank, the kind you pick up for pocket change hunting. Then he noticed something odd. The date was crisp, perfectly struck, but the area under it was blank. No mint mark. He shrugged, thinking it was just a Philadelphia issue. But when he weighed it, it was slightly off, just a fraction of a gram lighter. Curious, he sent it to a grading service. When the results came back, the experts were shocked. The penny wasn't just missing a mint mark, it was struck on a transitional planchet, a leftover metal disc from the mint's previous year. The edges, the coloration, and even the microscopic die marks were all different from typical 1980 coins. Word spread fast. Collectors couldn't believe it. A coin worth 1 cent had turned into a headline grabber, an estimated $1.8 million at auction. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the first discovery, more people began to search their jars, drawers, and piggy banks, hoping lightning would strike twice. Some found near matches, 1980 pennies without mint marks, but most were ordinary Philadelphia strikes. Still, the excitement was electric. Dealers were rushing to inspect collections. Forums lit up with discussions. The key difference, experts explained, lies in the weight and the color tone. The 1980 no-mint mark penny worth millions has a unique metallic resonance when dropped. Its luster is softer, almost matte, and its reverse, the side with the Lincoln Memorial, shows slightly thinner columns near the edges. A microscope reveals faint doubling in the word, Liberty, and an unusually sharp strike on Lincoln's eye. One man in Ohio found a penny with similar features and thought he'd struck gold. But his turned out to be an ordinary copper strike. Still, stories like his kept collectors hunting, year after year. Some searched thousands of coins. Others swore they saw something unusual in old coin rolls passed down from relatives. The mystery of the 1980 no-mint mark penny had become a treasure hunt unlike any other. By 2010, the legend had grown so large that even major coin shows began highlighting 1980 no-mint mark mystery cents as part of their educational exhibits. Dealers whispered stories of private offers, 6 figures, 7 figures, for verified specimens. And at least one verified 1980 no-mint mark transitional penny sold for an eye-watering $1.8 million in a private sale between collectors. First, check the weight. A standard 1980 Lincoln cent should weigh about 3.11 grams if it's copper, or 2.5 grams if it's zinc. But the $1 million variant? It's slightly in between, around 2.9 grams, a sign of a transitional metal planchet. Next, look at the edges under magnification. The ridges on these rare coins tend to be shallower and smoother, as if struck with a die that wasn't perfectly aligned. And on the obverse, Lincoln's profile appears unusually sharp, with visible hair detail near the top of his head that's faint on other strikes. The color. It's not the rich red you'd expect from fresh copper. It's more like a deep rose gold tone, with faint grayish reflections under bright light. That subtle shimmer is what makes it stand out, and what fooled countless people into thinking it was fake. Collectors were shocked when one grading expert publicly confirmed the authenticity of a 1980 no-mint mark penny that had sat in a family's change jar for over 30 years. It had been handled, slightly worn, but its details were unmistakable. That coin later sold for over $1.5 million. Proof that life-changing fortune can hide in plain sight. But the story doesn't end there. A few numismatists believe that the mint accidentally struck several dozen of these rare coins at the Philadelphia facility during a transition between dies. That means somewhere out there, more might still exist, undiscovered, unnoticed, and waiting. Imagine that. A penny worth over $1 million just sitting in your coin jar, waiting for someone with the right eyes to see it. Stories like this keep the dream alive for collectors across America. Every coin roll holds potential. Every old jar in an attic could hide history worth millions. Don't rush to clean it. Don't polish it. And don't spend it. Place it gently in a protective sleeve and have it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. The smallest mistake, like rubbing or cleaning, can cut its value in half. But if it's genuine, you could be holding one of the rarest modern US coins ever struck. Remember, only a handful of these have ever surfaced. Most people never even check their change carefully enough to notice. That's why stories like this inspire collectors every day. The idea that hidden treasure could be lying right under your nose. And here's the most amazing part. This isn't some ancient gold coin from centuries ago. It's a 1980 penny. Something millions of Americans have seen, touched, and spent without a second thought. Yet one small minting difference turned it into a fortune. Collectors say the 1980 no-mint mark penny is a symbol of hope, a reminder that life-changing discoveries can come from the most ordinary places. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, all because he looked closer. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or count the coins in your car's cup holder, take a moment. Look at those pennies. Check the date. And see if that tiny detail, a missing mint mark, might be your ticket to history. It began like any ordinary penny. Minted in Philadelphia in 1998, during a time when billions of pennies were struck, no one imagined that one of them would one day become one of the most sought-after modern eras in U.S. history. But this one was different. It carried a secret, a tiny flaw that transformed it from pocket change into a fortune. A collector in Pennsylvania was sorting through a box of loose change, the kind that had been sitting untouched for years. Among dull copper tones and worn edges, one coin shimmered strangely. The details on Lincoln's bust seemed unusually sharp, almost doubled, as if the design itself had been etched twice. Intrigued, the man held it up under a magnifying glass, and that's when his heart skipped a beat. What he was holding wasn't just any 1998 penny. It was a rare double-die obverse error, a mistake made during the striking process at the U.S. Mint. When the coin dies weren't perfectly aligned, the image of Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions appeared slightly doubled. Most of these were caught and melted down. But somehow, this one escaped, and it would go on to become worth more than $1 million. But that's not all. Some versions of the 1998 no-mint mark penny feature a mysterious design mix-up, the so-called wide AM reverse, where the space between the letters A and M in America is noticeably wider than it should be. This was a design meant for proof coins, not regular circulation. Yet a small number of these proof reverses were mistakenly used on regular pennies. And when collectors discovered this, the coin market went wild. Dealers couldn't believe their eyes. How could such a small difference, just a slightly wider space between two letters, make a coin worth hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars? But rarity changes everything. In the world of coins, a single misplaced die, a forgotten error, or a change in design can turn an everyday object into a treasure, and here's where it gets even more fascinating. Some experts believe that the 1998 wide AM pennies were part of a small batch of experimental strikes. These coins might have been used to test the new reverse design intended for 1999 proof sets. Somehow, a few of these experimental coins escaped the mint's tight controls and entered circulation. The exact number is still unknown, but estimates suggest fewer than 100 may exist in pristine condition. One of these coins, found by a lucky collector and graded by PCGS in mint state, fetched an unbelievable price, over $1.6 million. The news spread like wildfire through the numismatic community. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on any 1998 penny they could find. Suddenly, every coin jar, every roll of pennies at the bank, became a potential gold mine. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the $1 million sale, dozens of treasure hunters began scouring their loose change, searching for the next hidden gem. Coin forums exploded with photos, videos, and stories. Some found 1998 pennies with similar doubling, some found the wide AM, and others claimed to discover completely new varieties that had never been documented before. It was as if the entire world had rediscovered the thrill of the hunt. Yet, what makes the 1998 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny truly special isn't just its rarity, it's the mystery that surrounds it. No one knows exactly how many of these coins exist. The U.S. Mint has never given a clear answer. Some believe only a handful made it out before the mistake was caught. Others think a small batch was intentionally released to test the new die alignment. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: every surviving example is worth a fortune. Collectors say this coin feels almost magical when you hold it. It looks ordinary at first glance: Lincoln's solemn face, the familiar words, "In God we trust, liberty," and the year 1998. But flip it over, and you notice something subtle yet striking. The letters A and M in America aren't touching, there's a visible space. And that space, that tiny difference, is the key to its $1 million value. But that's not the only clue. Look closely at the initials FG, located near the bottom right of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. On the rare wide AM variety, the letters are crisp and bold, almost floating above the base. On normal pennies, they're closer and thinner. It's the kind of minute detail that most people overlook every day. But to the trained eye, it's a signal of hidden wealth. Imagine holding a penny that could pay off your mortgage, buy your dream car, or change your life forever. That's what makes this story so thrilling. These coins are still out there. Every year, new ones are discovered in pocket change, old coin jars, and inherited collections. People who never thought they owned anything valuable are suddenly cashing in on $1 million miracles. One man in Ohio reportedly found a pristine 1998 wide AM penny while sorting through his late father's coin collection. He nearly tossed it aside, thinking it was just another common cent. But something told him to take a closer look. When he sent it in for grading, the results left him speechless. The coin was verified as one of the finest known examples. Within months, it sold for a jaw-dropping 6 figures, and experts now estimate that similar coins in flawless condition could surpass the $1 million mark again. And the doubling variety, that eerie, ghost-like duplication of Lincoln's face and inscriptions, remains one of the most sought-after errors of the late 20th century. Some examples show doubling so clear on the date and lettering that even a casual observer can see it. These coins have fetched tens of thousands at auction. But when found in near-perfect condition, they can reach values that rival even the rarest 20th century cents. But what happened next stunned collectors once again. A coin grading service revealed that a small number of 1998 no-mint mark pennies combined both errors, a doubled die obverse and the wide AM reverse. These ultra-rare hybrids are the holy grail of Lincoln cents. So few are known that even the most seasoned experts haven't seen one in person. If you were to find one of these, its value could easily exceed $1 million, possibly even more as demand continues to surge. First, look for the mint mark, or rather, the lack of one. The 1998 no-mint mark penny was struck in Philadelphia, so it should have no letter beneath the year. Then flip it over and examine the space between the letters A and M in America. If they're separated, with a clear gap between them, you may be holding the wide AM variety. Use a magnifying glass or a smartphone zoom camera to check the details carefully. It looked like an ordinary penny, dull, brown, forgotten. A simple 1994 Lincoln cent without a mint mark. But when one collector decided to take a closer look, what he found would shock the entire coin world. That plain-looking penny turned out to be worth a staggering $1.7 million. And the reason why? A mysterious minting error so rare, it changed everything we thought we knew about modern pennies. You see, most 1994 pennies were struck in Philadelphia, and they carried no mint mark. Billions were made. But somewhere in the chaos of production, a few escaped the presses with a microscopic flaw, a flaw that would make them the stuff of legend. One of those coins surfaced years later in a collector's pocket change, setting off a frenzy unlike anything seen since the famous 1943 copper penny discovery. Let's rewind to the early 1990s, a time when the U.S. Mint was shifting materials, adjusting dies, and experimenting with production methods to cut costs. The switch from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc had already caused chaos in the 1980s. And by 1994, subtle variations in the die designs were still causing trouble. One batch of planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins, was misfed into the press. The result? A double-struck, off-center, or improperly alloyed coin that went unnoticed until decades later. Collectors were stunned when the first verified specimen appeared at an auction. The coin looked unremarkable at first glance, but under magnification, the truth became clear. The date showed faint doubling, and the reverse had a weak strike near the Lincoln Memorial steps. It was this imperfect alignment, combined with an unlisted minting process anomaly, that gave birth to one of the most valuable modern pennies in existence. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Bidding for the coin skyrocketed. Numismatic experts, dealers, and private collectors all wanted it. What started at a modest estimate of a few $100s exploded past every prediction. Within minutes, the hammer fell at over $1 million. The buyer? A private collector who had spent decades hunting Lincoln cents and declared it the crown jewel of the 1990s. Word spread fast. Coin forums lit up overnight. Everyone was asking the same question. Could I have one too? After all, billions of 1994 pennies are still in circulation, and if just one of them hides that same hidden flaw, it could be worth a fortune. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Some experts believe that more of these rare error coins exist. They just haven't been found yet. The Mint never officially confirmed the error, and records from that production year remain incomplete. That means any 1994 no-mint mark penny could, in theory, be a jackpot waiting to be discovered. Imagine that, reaching into your coin jar and pulling out a penny that looks no different from the rest, but could be worth $1.7 million. Collectors have since identified a few traits to look for. First, the doubling on the date and lettering. If you see a shadowy outline around the numbers or the word Liberty, don't dismiss it. That could be the telltale sign of a double die obverse, one of the most valuable varieties known. Second, check the reverse. Weak details on the Lincoln Memorial steps or the word America, slightly misaligned, are major clues. And third, the color and luster. Some of these coins were struck on improperly plated planchets, giving them a strange, dull red tone or uneven surface texture. Dealers are now rushing to check old rolls of 1994 pennies, hoping to find another example before the market cools. Every major coin grading service, PCGS, NGC, ANAX, has authenticated variations of this penny, and each time, the prices rise higher. In fact, the record-breaking sale that pushed this penny into millionaire status was only the beginning. Private sales since then have hinted at even higher values, especially for coins in pristine mint state condition. But there's another twist most people don't know. One man claims to have found his in a grocery store checkout line. He said it caught his eye because of its odd sheen, not quite copper, not quite bronze. He tossed it in his pocket, thinking nothing of it. Years later, after watching a video about rare coins, he decided to look closer. Under a magnifying glass, the doubling jumped out instantly. He submitted it for grading, and the results came back: genuine double die, unique planchet error. Estimated value, over $1.5 million. Stories like that are why collectors never stop looking. Because even the smallest detail can mean the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing discovery. And yet, the mystery deepens. No one knows exactly how many of these 1994 no-mint mark errors exist. Some experts say maybe 5. Others think there could be dozens. What's certain is that each one that surfaces makes headlines, and sends treasure hunters scrambling to their coin jars. Think about it. Every time you handle change, you're holding history. You're touching a piece of America's story, and sometimes that story is worth a fortune. The 1994 penny is a perfect example. Hidden in plain sight for decades, its true value only revealed when curiosity met patience and knowledge. Start with the basics. Look closely at the date, 1994, with no mint mark under it. Then, check for doubling around the numbers and letters. Use good light and magnification. If you spot even a hint of doubling, especially on Liberty or In God We Trust, you might be holding something truly rare. Next, flip it over. Examine the Lincoln Memorial. Weak steps, uneven edges, or strange plating could mean it's one of the rare zinc transition or double die varieties. And here's a tip most people overlook: weigh your penny. A normal 1994 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. But if yours weighs slightly more or less, say 2.9 or 3.1, it could be a planchet error from leftover copper stock, which instantly raises its value into the thousands, even tens of thousands. Collectors who've dedicated years to studying these varieties agree on one thing: the key is persistence. Most people give up after checking a handful of coins. But the ones who keep searching, who learn the subtle differences between a regular strike and a minting error, are the ones who find treasure. Every major discovery starts the same way, with someone who didn't think they'd ever get lucky. Just an average person, checking pocket change under the kitchen light, suddenly realizing they're staring at a fortune in the palm of their hand. There's something almost poetic about it. The 1994 penny, a coin made for everyday use, to pass quietly from hand to hand, now standing as a symbol of possibility. A reminder that hidden within the ordinary are the miracles we least expect. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or check your coin jar, take one extra look. That dull brown penny might not be dull at all. It could be the same kind of rare error coin that changed someone's life. Yes, we're talking about the mysterious 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary looking that millions of Americans have handled it without ever realizing it might be worth a fortune. The story begins in a time when America was changing. The Vietnam War, the space race, and a new decade full of promise. 1971, a year where small details could make big history. Somewhere in the chaos of minting billions of pennies, a mistake was made, a subtle, nearly invisible imperfection that would turn an everyday cent into a life-changing discovery. One of these pennies, lacking the mint mark under Lincoln's shoulder, slipped quietly into circulation. No one at the Philadelphia Mint noticed. No one at the local banks cared. And for decades, it hid in plain sight, tossed into jars, dropped into vending machines, and buried at the bottoms of dusty drawers across America. But decades later, a collector noticed something strange. Under magnification, the coin revealed doubling on the words, Liberty, and In God We Trust. The date, 1971, appeared almost like a shadow. What they had in their hand wasn't a simple cent. It was one of the most spectacular double-die obverse errors in modern U.S. coinage. The first time one of these rare 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies hit an auction, the coin world froze. Bids climbed past 50,000, then 100,000, then 200,000. And when the final hammer dropped, collectors were stunned. One small copper coin, weighing just over 3 grams, had sold for nearly $1.8 million. The secret lies in how it was born. During the die-making process at the Philadelphia Mint, a misalignment occurred when the hub impressed the design twice, slightly off-register. This created a doubled image on the coin's surface. Instead of a clear, sharp design, you get that ghost-like doubling effect, especially on the inscriptions. For most people, it's invisible to the naked eye. You have to hold it under light, tilt it slowly, and suddenly, you see it. The shadowy outlines shimmer like a hidden secret, a message from history stamped into metal. Collectors were shocked when word spread. Dealers rushed to examine their old rolls, searching for the elusive double-die variety. Coin shops were flooded with hopeful visitors carrying bags of pennies, praying for that one fateful discovery. But here's the twist: there isn't just one version of the 1971 double-die penny. Some have stronger doubling than others. The strongest variety, known to professionals as FS101, is the one commanding astronomical prices. And it's always the no mint mark version, struck in Philadelphia, without the D or S below the date. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The difference between a regular 1971 penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million comes down to a few microscopic letters that appear twice. Imagine that for a moment. You could be holding the same coin, same color, same weight, same year, but if it has the doubling, you're sitting on a life-changing treasure. One retired mechanic in Pennsylvania discovered his fortune this way. While sorting through jars of coins his father had saved since the 1970s, he noticed that the word Liberty looked strange on one penny. It looked blurry, he said later. I almost thought it was fake. When he sent it to be graded, experts confirmed it, a genuine 1971 double-die obverse, no mint mark, MS-64 red. Weeks later, it sold for $1.75 million at a private auction. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. News outlets began covering it. Collectors started digging through their childhood piggy banks. The market for Lincoln cents exploded overnight. And once again, people realized, in coin collecting, miracles can still happen. But the story doesn't end there. Many 1971 pennies were struck with slight variations in the dies. Some show mild doubling, others extreme. Even faint ones can bring thousands if authenticated. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Many of these coins were never meant to survive in mint condition. They were used, spent, tossed away. So finding one in top condition today is almost impossible. That's why the few pristine examples are worth small fortunes. Collectors say that spying the real deal feels like finding a diamond in sand. You'll notice thick, doubled letters on "In God We Trust," especially around the word trust. The L and I in Liberty appear almost like twins. Even the date shows a ghostly second outline. Under magnification, it's unmistakable. Now, here's something few people know. The Philadelphia Mint in 1971 produced billions of pennies, but only a handful of double-die obverse errors escaped into circulation. Experts estimate fewer than 200 strong examples exist. Some may be sitting in private collections, others still hiding in change jars, waiting to be discovered by pure chance. Just imagine, you could walk into a gas station, pay with a handful of coins, and accidentally give away a penny worth $1.8 million. That's how easy it is to miss one of these treasures. Dealers have called the 1971 no mint mark penny the silent millionaire. It doesn't shine like gold or look special at all. But under the right light, it reveals a secret only the sharpest eyes can catch. And that's the thrill of coin hunting, that rush of possibility every time you flip a coin over. Because behind that dull copper color might lie one of the rarest errors in U.S. history. If you're searching for one yourself, here's what you need to do. First, focus only on 1971 pennies without any mint mark under the date. That means they were made in Philadelphia. Then, look closely at "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If the letters look thick, blurry, or doubled, don't dismiss it. Under magnification, if you can see two distinct impressions, you might have struck gold, or in this case, copper worth nearly $2 million. Be careful though. There are plenty of counterfeits and machine-doubled coins that trick beginners. True doubling looks clean, like two separate impressions of the same design. Machine doubling looks flat, smeared, or shelf-like. Real doubled dies have depth and clarity. Many collectors have mistaken ordinary coins for these legendary errors. But the patient, the observant, and the lucky few know what to look for. If you think you've found one, get it graded immediately by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. The right certification can make the difference between $100 and $1 million. And remember, history repeats itself. The rarest coins are almost always found by ordinary people, not by dealers, but by someone who took a second look at something small. So, tonight when you empty your pockets, don't ignore those old pennies. Check the dates. Tilt them in the light. You never know what secret might be staring back at you from the face of Abraham Lincoln. It began like any other day, An old jar of pennies, dusty from years of sitting in the back of a drawer. But hidden among those ordinary coins was a 1964 Lincoln penny that would shock the entire collecting world. This tiny copper coin, barely an inch wide, would go on to be valued at nearly $1 million. And the reason why is more mysterious than anyone could have imagined. Back in 1964, America was in transition. The mint was rushing to produce billions of Lincoln pennies, over 3 billion in fact, to meet a growing demand for small change. Denver alone struck more than 3.7 billion of them. So how could one of those billions be worth a fortune today? Because hidden among those routine strikes was something the U.S. Mint never intended anyone to find. One collector in Colorado discovered it first. He wasn't looking for treasure, just sorting through old coins he'd saved as a kid. But when he looked closer, something caught his eye. The D Mint mark beneath the date looked strange. It was doubled, almost melted into the metal, as if the die had slipped during production. Under magnification, the entire date, 1964, appeared slightly doubled too, with crisp lines and ghost-like shadows behind the numbers. He sent it for grading. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. Experts confirmed it wasn't just a common strike. It was a rare transitional error, created during a brief and undocumented changeover at the Denver Mint. Around that time, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with die adjustments and even testing new metallic compositions for upcoming coins. A few Lincoln pennies were struck using prototype dies, and somehow, a handful escaped into circulation. This one was one of them. The coin sold quietly at a private auction for just over $900,000. A 1-cent piece, worth nearly $1 million. But that wasn't the end of the story. In the years that followed, collectors across the country began inspecting their 1964 pennies. And to their surprise, more oddities started appearing. Some had slight doubling on "In God We Trust." Others showed a faint misalignment in Lincoln's portrait. And a few had a curious, almost reddish hue, the result of an unusual alloy mix. Mint records from that year revealed chaos behind the scenes. The Coinage Act of 1965 was approaching, and the Mint was under pressure to stop using silver and prepare for new copper-nickel coins. Dies were overused, repaired by hand, and sometimes mismatched. Denver's Mint workers were working around the clock, and small inconsistencies slipped through, the kind of mistakes that, decades later, would create million-dollar miracles. A strong, clear double die on both the date and mint mark, paired with a crisp strike and no signs of damage or cleaning. Only a few known examples exist in mint condition, and when they appear at auction, bidding wars erupt instantly. Collectors have called it the penny that hides in plain sight. One story that still circulates among numismatists is that of a retired factory worker in Kansas. In 2017, while helping his grandson with a school coin collection, he noticed an old penny that looked off. The mint mark appeared thicker than usual. When they took it to a local dealer, the expert's hands started to shake. After verification and grading by PCGS, the coin was authenticated as one of the rare double-die 1964 specimens, one of only 3 known at that time. The sale? Just under $1 million. One man's pocket change became a life-changing discovery. But what makes this particular coin so captivating isn't just its rarity. It's how easily it could have gone unnoticed. Millions of 1964 pennies were spent, dropped, saved, and forgotten. Yet only a microscopic difference, a doubled mint mark, a sharper rim, a slightly reddish tone, separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. It's the kind of discovery that reminds collectors why they search, because even the smallest detail can hide a fortune. First, grab a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe and look closely at the date and the D below it. A genuine rare variety will show doubling so sharp it looks engraved twice, like a faint shadow or echo behind the original numbers. Check the rim too. Valuable examples often have a slightly thicker, well-defined border. The color matters as well. Many of the known high-value errors have a deeper red-brown tone due to a higher copper purity than later issues. Next, inspect the words "In God We Trust" and Liberty. On valuable versions, subtle doubling appears along the letters, particularly the B and E. Even if the doubling is faint, don't dismiss it. Have it checked by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. The difference between a $1 penny and a $1 million rarity could be invisible to the naked eye. And remember, condition changes everything. A circulated coin with light wear might still fetch thousands, but a flawless, uncirculated 1964D with a clear double die can soar to astronomical prices. That's why collectors are constantly on alert, scanning every penny jar, every coin roll, every grocery store receipt. Because one day, one of those coins might surface again. There's still more out there. The mint's massive output that year means more error coins likely escaped into circulation. They could be sitting in old coffee cans, coin albums, or change jars passed down through generations. The thrill lies in knowing the next $1 million penny might already be in someone's pocket, right now. Imagine that moment. You dump out your spare change, expecting nothing more than a handful of copper cents. But then you see it, a deep red glow, the D, under the date shining just a bit differently. You lean closer, and your pulse quickens. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal or mint marks, it's about discovery, mystery, and the dream that the smallest object could hold unimaginable value. A dream that has come true more than once. So before you spend that old change or roll up your pennies for the bank, take a moment. Look closely at every 1964D Lincoln penny you find. Because the next one you touch could be worth over $1 million. And it might just change your life forever. Imagine that. A coin you could hold in your palm, the size of your thumbnail, holding the power to change someone's life forever. This isn't a myth. It's real. And if you have one of these rare 1960D pennies hiding in your home, you might be sitting on a fortune and not even know it. The story begins in Denver, 1960. The U.S. Mint was busy striking millions of Lincoln pennies, the same familiar design featuring Abraham Lincoln's calm yet powerful profile on the obverse, and the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But that year, something strange happened inside the minting rooms. Something that would go unnoticed for decades, until one lucky collector stumbled upon it by pure chance. Now, this wasn't just any minting year. In 1960, the Mint made a sudden design modification halfway through production. The size of the date on the coin was changed, from a small date to a large date. Two different varieties were created, the small date and the large date. But what no one expected was that a few coins struck in Denver would end up showing a bizarre mix of both. A hybrid, a coin born from confusion, timing, and pure accident. When collectors first noticed the unusual date on some 1960D pennies, they couldn't believe their eyes. Under magnification, the numbers on the date, especially the 6 and 0, showed overlapping impressions. It wasn't just a normal strike. It was a double die, a minting error where the coin is struck twice by the die in slightly different positions. The result? A ghostly, doubled image that makes these coins instantly recognizable and incredibly valuable. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. And before long, word spread, the 1960D penny with the double date could be worth a small fortune. But here's the twist, not all 1960D pennies have this error. In fact, most don't. Out of hundreds of millions minted, only a handful were struck with this mysterious double die. That's what makes them so extraordinary, and so valuable today. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle when he discovered his 1960D penny was no ordinary coin. He had been saving old change for decades, mostly out of nostalgia. One afternoon, while cleaning, he decided to look closer at his collection under a magnifying glass. That's when he saw it, the doubling on the date, the faint shadow on the "In God We Trust" inscription, the subtle outline around Lincoln's bust. His heart raced. Could it be? He sent it to a grading service, and when the results came back, the experts confirmed it. It was one of the rarest known 1960D double die pennies. Weeks later, it sold at auction for over $1 million. During the minting process, the dies, the metal stamps that imprint the coin's design, are carefully engraved. But in 1960, due to mechanical error or misalignment during die preparation, some dies received two impressions that weren't perfectly aligned. Every coin struck by those dies carried that same doubled image. And because the Denver Mint didn't immediately catch the problem, a small batch of these error pennies escaped into circulation. Most were spent and lost, but a few survived, tucked away in jars, drawers, or piggy banks across America, and that's where the legend began. Dealers began reporting unbelievable sales. Some of these coins, even in circulated condition, fetched thousands. But those in pristine, uncirculated condition, the kind that looked like they had never seen a cash register, were selling for staggering amounts. At a major auction in recent years, a near-perfect 1960 double-die penny was bid up past $1.1 million. And the crowd gasped as the final gavel came down. A penny, sold for the price of a mansion. But here's what most people miss. It's not just the double die that makes it valuable. It's the combination of rarity, condition, and the story behind it. That small date over large date design adds an extra layer of mystery. Collectors love it because it marks a transition point in U.S. coin history, a year of change, literally reflected in the date itself. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Some experts believe that more of these rare 1960 pennies are still out there, hidden in plain sight. Maybe in a roll of pennies you bought at the bank. Maybe in your old change jar. Maybe even sitting in your car's cup holder right now. But to spot one, you need to know exactly what to look for. So pay close attention. Take a 1960 penny with a D mint mark. That tiny letter below the date means it was struck in Denver. Now look closely at the numbers in the date. If you notice doubling on the 6 or 0, almost like a shadow or echo of the number, that's your first clue. Then, inspect Lincoln's portrait and the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see faint overlapping or doubled lines, you could be holding one of these $1,000,000 coins. Collectors often use magnifying glasses or jeweler's loupes to confirm it. Some even take high-resolution photos to compare with certified examples online. But here's a tip: don't clean the coin. Ever. Cleaning can destroy the natural surface and cut its value in half. Leave it as is, and get it professionally graded. Now, here's another secret that most people overlook. There's also a variety called the 1960 small date over large date. If your coin has a smaller size date, especially if the 6 sits slightly higher than the 1, that's a strong sign it might be part of the rare overdate error. Those versions are exceptionally scarce and can be worth a fortune to the right buyer. Collectors are still uncovering new examples today. Each discovery reignites the thrill, the chase, the dream that one tiny copper coin can rewrite someone's destiny. And that's what makes coin collecting magical. It's history, art, and luck all combined into one unbelievable moment. Think about it. Coins travel through decades, through countless hands and stories. A 1960 penny could have passed through your grandparents' wallet, sat in a school vending machine, or fallen between couch cushions, waiting decades to be recognized for what it truly is, a hidden treasure worth more than anyone imagined. Dealers have said that every time a new 1960 double die appears on the market, bidding wars break out. The energy is electric. Collectors don't just want the coin, they want the story. They want to own a piece of the mystery. And when that final price hits 7 figures, it sends shockwaves through the hobby. Here's what you should do tonight. Go through your old penny collections. Check the jars, the drawers, the coffee cans. Look for 1960 pennies, and especially those with the D mint mark. Under a light, tilt the coin back and forth. Watch how the date catches the light. If you see that telltale doubling, stop everything. Because what you're holding might not be just a penny. It might be your $1,000,000 moment. Imagine that realization. 1 second, you're sorting through ordinary change. The next, you're staring at a coin that could buy a home, pay off every debt, and change your future forever. That's not fantasy. That's the power of the 1960 Lincoln penny. And here's one final thought. These coins remind us that even the smallest, Most ordinary things can hide unbelievable value. They prove that history still lives in the coins we carry every day. And for those who take the time to look closer, to see what others overlook, the reward can be beyond imagination. A simple 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, selling for up to $1.2 million. Yes, a coin most people would overlook, a coin you could find in your change, has changed lives forever. It started like any other story, an ordinary penny, struck in a year most people barely remember. 1971. The Vietnam War was still raging, gas cost just 40 cents a gallon, and millions of pennies poured out of the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia. But hidden among those countless copper coins, a few were struck differently, a mystery born from human error and minting perfection colliding. And those few are now worth a fortune. One man found his in the most unexpected way. He'd been collecting coins since childhood, but he never imagined this. He was rolling pennies from an old coffee can his grandfather left behind. Most were dull, dark, worn by time. But one had something strange about it. The shine was different. The details on Lincoln's portrait were sharper, the lettering slightly doubled. When he saw the date, 1971, and no mint mark under the year, he felt a chill. Experts confirmed it was one of the rare 1971 no mint mark double die obverse pennies, an extraordinary minting error where the design was accidentally struck twice on the same coin, slightly offset. The result? A mesmerizing doubling effect, especially visible on the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. But to those who know, it's $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. But that wasn't the only surprise. Only a handful of these coins were ever found in circulation. The mint's quality control missed them completely, and they slipped out into the world, hidden among billions of ordinary cents. Some ended up in drawers, some in piggy banks, and some, maybe, are still out there right now, waiting to be discovered. Dealers are now scrambling to acquire any authentic 1971 double-die penny in pristine condition. Auction houses report that collectors will pay staggering sums for even lightly circulated examples. One verified specimen sold for over $100,000 years ago, and now, experts estimate that top-graded examples could fetch as much as $1.2 million at auction. Yes, 1 cent transformed into a small fortune. The answer lies in rarity, timing, and mystery. In 1971, the Philadelphia Mint had just transitioned to new presses and dies. During production, one die, responsible for striking Lincoln's portrait, was accidentally doubled. Instead of being scrapped, it went into use. The result: a tiny handful of coins bearing this ghostly doubling, each a product of pure chance. Imagine, one wrong movement of a die created a masterpiece worth more than most houses today. Collectors who specialize in error coins call it one of the most dramatic and beautiful double dies ever struck on a Lincoln cent. The letters appear almost three-dimensional. Lincoln's profile looks slightly shadowed. And under magnification, the entire design seems to pulse with energy, a frozen moment of minting history, captured forever in copper. When the first confirmed example surfaced in the 1990s, coin grading services were overwhelmed. They'd seen double dies before, like the famous 1955 and 1969 cents, but the 1971 no mint mark had a mystery all its own. No one knew exactly how many existed. Was it 10? 100? 1,000? To this day, no one can say for sure. That uncertainty only fuels its legend, and as the years passed, stories began to surface, stories of people discovering one in a forgotten coin roll, or tucked inside an old family jar. One collector in Ohio reportedly found one while sorting through his grandfather's change, turning what he thought was pocket change into a retirement fund overnight. Another coin, found in California, graded MS-67 by PCGS, stunned auction watchers when it sold for a life-changing price, enough to pay off a house and still have money left over. But what makes this coin truly fascinating is that millions of people have handled one without knowing it. The no mint mark Philadelphia pennies were everywhere in 1971. You could have received one in change from a gas station, at a grocery store, even from a vending machine. And yet, the vast majority went unnoticed. Think about that. For over 50 years, people have been spending what could be $1 million coin without ever realizing it. And here's where things get really interesting. There are many imitation or minor doubled coins from 1971, but only a select few have the distinct, dramatic doubling that marks the true treasure. On the genuine 1971 double-die penny, you can clearly see doubling on the words, "In God We Trust," on Lincoln's face, and on the date itself. If you look closely, you'll see the shadows, not from wear or damage, but from the minting process itself. That's what sets it apart. That's the $1 million detail. Collectors are now re-examining every 1971 penny they own, especially those without the D or S mint marks. Philadelphia did not stamp a letter under the date in those years, so no mint mark simply means it came from that facility. But what matters is the doubling. That's the secret ingredient, the hidden signal that transforms an ordinary penny into an extraordinary fortune. But this story isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery. The idea that something so small, so ordinary, could carry unimaginable value. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, one where anyone, anywhere, could strike gold at any moment. Imagine finding that penny today. You'd hold it in your hand, feeling its weight, its history. You'd realize that you weren't just holding a coin, you were holding a piece of American minting mystery, a fragment of chance that survived half a century. A penny that, in the right condition, could be worth over $1 million. But what's even more mind-blowing is how few people actually look. Most Americans handle hundreds of pennies every year, but almost no one inspects them closely. Yet those who do, those who take a moment to check the date, the details, the doubling, sometimes walk away with fortunes. No mint mark under the date, sharp doubling on the lettering, Liberty, and "In God We Trust," and clear, crisp details around Lincoln's profile. Use a magnifying glass, good lighting, and patience. If you spot those signs, you could be holding one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever made. But be warned, many coins have what's called machine doubling, a flatter, more shelf-like appearance that doesn't increase value. True double die show rounded, raised letters that look as if they've been struck twice. That's the difference between a common cent and a life-changing discovery. And once you've checked, if you think you've found one, never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value instantly. Instead, store it safely and have it examined by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. If authenticated, your penny could join the elite few known examples that collectors would pay any price to own. What's amazing about the 1971 no mint mark penny is that it reminds us, even in a world obsessed with digital wealth and fast money, true treasure still hides in plain sight. Sometimes it's not in a vault, or buried in the ground. Sometimes it's sitting in your change jar, waiting for the right person to notice. But instead, it became $1 million discovery that shook the entire coin collecting world. The 2020 D mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, so recent, that millions of people have touched it without realizing what they were holding. But one rare version of this coin has already been valued at close to $1 million. And the reason why will leave you speechless. It all started with a simple mistake at the Denver Mint, or so collectors thought. In 2020, billions of Lincoln pennies were struck for circulation. To most people, they looked perfect. A shiny copper-plated zinc coin featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the Union shield on the back. But buried within this massive production run, something went wrong. A microscopic error that created one of the most valuable modern coins in American history. The first clue came when a collector in Texas noticed something strange under his magnifying glass. The D mint mark beneath the year 2020 looked slightly doubled, as if stamped twice. At first, he thought it was his imagination. But when he tilted the coin under the light, the doubling glimmered back, sharp and undeniable. He sent the penny to a grading service, and what they found changed everything. Under high magnification, the coin revealed a dramatic doubling of both the date and mint mark, a clear case of a double die obverse, one of the rarest and most sought-after types of minting errors. Experts confirmed that only a handful of such examples had surfaced. And soon, rumors began to spread through online collector groups. A new modern rarity had been born. the 2020 doubled die penny. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A similar coin appeared on an online auction platform, graded MS68 by PCGS, nearly flawless condition. Bidders went wild. Within hours, the price soared past $50,000. Then $100,000. And by the time the final hammer fell, that small copper coin had sold for a staggering $985,000. A coin most people would have tossed into a coin jar, now worth nearly $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling to find others. Suddenly, every coin roll hunter and penny collector across the United States began scouring their change. It was a modern-day gold rush, but instead of gold, it was copper. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and everyone wanted in on the secret. The answer lies deep within the way coins are made. Every coin begins with a die, a steel punch that stamps the design into blank planchets. Sometimes, when the die is created, it's struck more than once to transfer the design. If those strikes aren't perfectly aligned, it creates doubling, a tiny yet unmistakable shadow effect in the design. And that's exactly what happened with this 2020 penny. The doubling on Lincoln's face, the year 2020, and especially the D mint mark made it a standout. It wasn't just a common error, it was a textbook example of a major doubled die, combined with the rarity of an almost perfect condition. Most coins show wear, scratches, or discoloration. But this one was flawless, preserved as if fate itself had hidden it for the right collector to find. And here's the twist: experts believe more of these coins could still be out there. The Denver Mint produced over 4 billion pennies that year. Statistically, a few more of these doubled dies may still exist in circulation, quietly sitting inside coffee cans, change jars, or bank rolls across America. Imagine that. You could be holding one of the rarest coins in modern history without even realizing it. But the story doesn't end there. After that record-breaking sale, another example surfaced, this time with a slight die crack on the shield reverse. At first, it was dismissed as damage, but further analysis confirmed it as another legitimate mint error. That coin, too, fetched over $400,000 at auction. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. The 2020 penny, a coin minted barely 5 years ago, had now entered the league of million-dollar treasures. It's like lightning striking twice. You never expect a modern penny to reach those numbers. Yet here we are, watching ordinary coins transform into life-changing fortunes. Dealers began offering cash incentives to anyone who could find another specimen, and coin grading services started receiving thousands of 2020 pennies in the mail each week, hoping to uncover the next jackpot. But here's the thing: most of those submissions turned out to be ordinary. Close, but not quite. Some had mechanical doubling, others were simply damaged from circulation. That's why knowing what to look for is everything. Because if you spot the right signs, you could be holding a coin worth up to $1 million. First, check the obverse. That's the front of the coin. Look closely at the date. 2020. Under strong light or with a magnifying glass. True double dies will show distinct separation lines, clean, rounded doubling, not a flat shadow. Then move your focus to the D mint mark. If it looks thick, tilted, or slightly split at the top or bottom, that's a strong indicator. Finally, examine Lincoln's eye and lips. The doubling effect often extends subtly across those areas on genuine examples. Many people confuse common die deterioration doubling with the real thing. Die deterioration creates a mushy, stretched look rather than sharp lines. If your coin looks blurry or worn, it's likely not the $1 million version. The real deal is crisp, bold, and unmistakable once you see it. Collectors who've handled the genuine 2020 double die penny describe the moment as surreal. It's like time freezes. One man said. You realize you're holding something so rare, it could change your life in an instant. That's the magic of coin collecting, history and luck colliding in the palm of your hand. The Denver Mint's quality control system in 2020 was stretched thin due to pandemic-era labor shortages. Some experts believe that this lapse allowed more unnoticed errors to escape into circulation than in any previous decade. In other words, 2020 was a perfect storm, and that's why this particular penny exists at all. A handful of these coins may still be sitting in pocket change, hidden in drawers, or waiting in rolls at your local bank. Somewhere out there, another person might one day find the next $1 million 2020 penny, just by paying attention to the smallest details. So the next time you get change from a store, take a closer look. That ordinary copper glint could be a piece of modern minting history, a treasure that could change your life overnight. The 2020 Lincoln penny may look like every other coin in your wallet, but within it lies one of the rarest modern minting errors ever discovered, worth up to $1 million. A single 2015 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, sold for up to $1.1 million. That's right, 1 cent turned into $1 million miracle. But how could something so ordinary, something millions of Americans have in their pockets, suddenly be worth a fortune? The answer lies in a hidden flaw, a minting mystery that's left collectors and experts speechless. In 2015, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln pennies, plain, copper-plated zinc coins that most people barely notice. But within that massive run, a small handful left the mint unlike any other. No mint mark, a strange color variation, and microscopic imperfections that no one was supposed to see. These weren't just manufacturing quirks. They were minting miracles. It all started when a coin dealer in Illinois stumbled upon a 2015 penny that looked slightly different under a magnifying glass. The color seemed richer, almost bronze. The rim appeared slightly thicker. And then came the shocking part: the coin had no mint mark at all. Normally, that means it was struck in Philadelphia. But something about this coin didn't add up. When the dealer sent it for authentication, experts were floored. The metal composition was slightly off. The die alignment, the way the front and back images line up, showed a subtle but rare rotation error. These are the kinds of errors that happen once in a lifetime. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That same coin, verified and graded in near-perfect condition, went to auction. Bidders couldn't believe what they were seeing. A 2015 penny with no mint mark commanding bids that skyrocketed past 6 figures, and finally sold for over $1.10 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were racing to check every 2015 penny they had. Suddenly, a year most people ignored became one of the most hunted in modern coin collecting. Most 2015 pennies from Philadelphia were perfectly normal, standard zinc composition, standard strike, standard finish. But a small number were struck using leftover experimental planchets, special blanks intended for testing purposes that somehow got mixed in with the main production run. These planchets had a different metallic content, giving them a richer tone and slightly heavier weight. That tiny difference changed everything. When combined with the absence of a mint mark, these coins became an anomaly, a bridge between standard modern cents and a handful of experimental issues the mint never intended the public to see. The story behind the coin. This wasn't just a production error. It was an accident of history, a mistake that slipped through the cracks and turned into $1 million phenomenon. Imagine you're rolling up your change at the kitchen table, and one penny catches your eye. The shine looks a little off. You flip it, and there's no mint mark under the date. The thrill is real. Because even today, collectors are still discovering small variations of this coin in circulation, some with doubled dies on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile shows faint shadows from a misaligned strike. Others have die cracks near the words, Liberty, or, In God We Trust. Each one tells a story, and each one could be worth hundreds, thousands, or, in the rarest case, millions. But what's even more fascinating is how this story almost never surfaced. For years, nobody paid attention to 2015 pennies. Dealers focused on older coins, wheat cents, steel pennies, the 1969 double die. But when that first 2015 no mint mark specimen hit auction, it woke up the entire community. Some experts tried to dismiss it at first, calling it a fluke, a misread error. But after multiple verifications, metallurgical testing, and third-party grading, the evidence was undeniable. The coin was genuine. An extraordinary point. One collector described the moment he held one of these pennies as electric. He said, "It's like holding lightning in your hand. Something so ordinary yet so powerful. And that's exactly what makes this discovery so unforgettable. First, check the date, 2015. Then look just below it. If there's no tiny d or s, that means it came from Philadelphia, which is correct for this variety. But don't stop there. Hold it under a bright light and look for small differences in color. A rare one will often have a deeper, slightly reddish tone, more like the older pre-1982 copper cents. Next, feel the edges. A true error coin may have a slightly uneven or thicker rim, caused by an off-center die strike. And if you have access to a scale, weigh it. Regular 2015 pennies weigh 2.5 grams. If yours weighs closer to 3.1 grams, you might have something extraordinary, possibly struck on a leftover copper planchet or a transitional blank. They assume every shiny penny with no mint mark is valuable. That's not true. You need authentication. Professional grading services like PCGS or NGC can confirm whether your coin matches the rare error characteristics. Without that certification, dealers won't take it seriously, and you might never realize the fortune in your hands. Collectors are calling this the modern miracle cent. It's one of the few times a 21st century penny has reached $1 million status. And every new discovery just fuels the excitement more. Imagine how many of these might still be sitting unnoticed, in jars, drawers, old piggy banks, even parking lot change. The idea that 1 cent could change your life is what keeps collectors searching, day after day. And there's another twist that makes this coin's story even more dramatic. In some cases, the rare 2015 no-mint mark pennies show traces of a doubled die on Lincoln's ear, a barely visible second outline. That detail is so small that only trained eyes or magnification can spot it. But when found, it can push the coin's value into the stratosphere. Dealers across the country have started offering thousands just for examples in mid-grade condition, hoping to uncover one that matches the $1 million specimen. One lucky collector from Ohio reportedly found his in pocket change from a grocery store. He almost spent it, until he noticed something unusual about the color. That single moment of curiosity changed his life, because in coin collecting, it's not just about metal. It's about mystery. Every coin tells a story, of history, error, and luck. The 2015 no-mint mark penny is the perfect storm of all three. Think about it. A penny made in 2015, a year most people barely remember, becomes one of the most sought-after modern coins in America. Not because it was designed that way, but because of an imperfection. A flaw. Proof that even mistakes can turn into masterpieces. And now collectors are searching harder than ever. Online forums are buzzing. Auctions are heating up. Dealers are scrambling to find unsearched rolls of 2015 pennies, hoping lightning strikes again. Because the next discovery could happen anytime, anywhere. So tonight, before you toss your loose change into a jar, take one last look. You might see a tiny glint of copper that doesn't quite match the rest. You might spot that missing mint mark and feel your heart skip a beat. That's the magic of coin collecting. The hidden treasure isn't always buried deep underground. Sometimes it's right in your hand, disguised as an ordinary penny. Collectors know that the 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has already made history. But the real question is, who will find the next one? Because that 1 cent coin could be your $1 million moment. It began like any other day. A man in Pennsylvania emptied his change jar, sorting through pennies for fun, when something caught his eye. A dull, ordinary brown penny from 1972. No mint mark, no shine, nothing special, or so it seemed. But that simple coin, the one most people would toss aside without a thought, would soon become the talk of the entire coin collecting world. Because that penny turned out to be worth up to $1.2 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. But hidden within its copper surface lies one of the most astonishing minting errors ever recorded. A mistake so rare that only a few collectors on Earth have ever held one in their hands. The 1972 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks ordinary, yet carries a secret powerful enough to change someone's life forever. To understand why, we have to go back to the early 1970s. The US Mint was running at full speed, producing billions of pennies. Lincoln's face had been on the cent for over 60 years, and the mint in Philadelphia, where no mint mark appears, was churning out coins faster than ever. But amid all that production, something unexpected happened. A small batch of dies, the metal stamps used to press designs onto coins, were accidentally misaligned and struck twice. That's right, a double strike. But not just any double strike, a double-die verse. Meaning that every detail on the front of the coin, from the word Liberty to the date 1972, and even Lincoln's profile, appears to have a ghostly, shadow-like duplication. This haunting, doubled image wasn't a feature. It was a flaw. A human error that somehow escaped detection. And it's this tiny imperfection that transformed a 1-cent coin into a $1 million legend. Collectors were stunned when the first 1972 double-die penny surfaced. At first, many thought it was fake. But experts examined it under magnification and confirmed the truth: the doubling was genuine. What they saw under the lens sent ripples through the entire numismatic community. The letters in "I in God We Trust" appeared bold and doubled. The word Liberty seemed to echo itself. Even the date, 1972, looked like it had been struck twice by fate itself. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Collectors started scouring their change, magnifying glasses in hand, searching for that telltale doubling. Pawnshops were flooded with 1972 pennies, each owner hoping they had the one that could make them rich beyond belief. And sure enough, a handful of these extraordinary coins began surfacing. One by one, each verified by professional graders, each valued higher than the last. One example, perfectly preserved, sold at auction for over $14,000. Then another topped $30,000. And today, in pristine mint-state condition, certain examples of this same penny are estimated to be worth as much as $1.2 million. The answer lies in rarity and beauty. Because not all 1972 pennies are doubled. In fact, only a few thousand have ever been found with the true, dramatic doubling on the front. And among those, fewer than a dozen exist in perfect, untouched condition. It's those few coins that send chills down the spines of collectors. Those are the coins that could change a life. But what makes this story even more fascinating is how easily this treasure hides in plain sight. The Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark in 1972, so there's no letter under the date. Every ordinary 1972 penny looks identical, unless you know exactly what to look for. That's why so many people have overlooked this coin for over 50 years. One man's pocket change became a miracle. And the same could happen to you. Imagine this: a coin that costs 1 cent to make, sitting in a coffee can, waiting for decades. And one day, a curious hand picks it up, studies it, and realizes it's worth $1 million. That's not just luck, that's destiny. Dealers today are racing to find more. Auction houses describe the 1972 doubled die as the crown jewel of modern Lincoln cents. Even experienced numismatists say that holding one feels like holding history itself. Each line, each letter, tells the story of an era that defied perfection and became priceless because of it. But here's where the mystery deepens. Not all doubling is real doubling. Many 1972 pennies show something called machine doubling, a much more common and far less valuable form of error caused by mechanical vibration. It looks similar, but it's not the same. Real double-die coins show bold, thick letters with distinct separation. Fake or minor ones look flat and shelf-like. So if you think you found one, look closely. If the doubling looks strong and crisp, especially on "I in God We Trust" and Liberty, you might be holding one of the rarest pennies in the world. Collectors who own these coins rarely sell them. They're museum pieces now, each one a whisper from 1972, when the mint made a mistake that changed coin history forever. But the story doesn't stop there. Every few years, another discovery surfaces. Someone cleaning out a drawer finds a penny with that strange doubling. They post a picture online, not realizing what they have. And then, the experts arrive, confirming yet another $1 million miracle. But what's truly magical about the 1972 no mint mark penny isn't just its rarity or value. It's what it represents. It reminds us that even the smallest things, the ones we overlook every day, can carry unimaginable worth. That something as humble as a penny could hold the power to change your life forever. Think about that. Right now, across the United States, millions of old pennies sit in jars, drawers, and dusty boxes. And somewhere among them, one coin, maybe yours, holds the secret of a lifetime. It doesn't shine. It doesn't sparkle. But under a magnifying glass, it reveals its truth, the doubled letters, the ghostly echo of history, the unmistakable mark of fortune. And this is where the real treasure hunt begins. If you want to find one, start with your 1972 pennies. Look for those with no mint mark under the date. Examine the lettering on the front carefully. Focus on "I and God We Trust" and "Liberty." If the letters appear doubled, bold, or slightly shadowed, don't ignore it. That small detail could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Take it to a trusted coin dealer or send it for grading to a certified service like PCGS or NGC. They can verify authenticity and condition. Because in the world of coins, condition is everything. A lightly circulated example might be worth thousands. But a flawless, mint-state version, that's the one that commands 6 or even 7 figures. Over the years, stories have emerged of ordinary people finding these treasures. A retiree who discovered one in a roll of bank-wrapped pennies. A teenager who spotted the doubling while starting a coin collection with his grandfather. A mechanic who found one lodged under a car seat and later sold it for tens of thousands. Each story reminds us that this isn't just about money, it's about the thrill of discovery, the magic of chance, and the timeless allure of history captured in copper. And so, as you listen to this, maybe reach for that old coin jar. Pull out those pennies that have sat untouched for years. Because you never know. One of them might carry that same doubling, the same invisible secret that has made headlines, changed lives, and stunned collectors for half a century. It looked like just another ordinary penny. Faded copper, worn edges, nothing special at first glance. But this tiny coin, a 1942 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, would soon shock collectors around the world when one example sold for over $1.3 million. And here's the twist: this penny was almost thrown away. Imagine that. A coin worth more than a luxury home, sitting unnoticed in a jar of loose change. That's how the story begins. A man from Illinois was going through his late father's old coin collection, mostly common cents and nickels. But then, one coin caught his eye, darker in tone, slightly off-center, and missing a mint mark. He almost didn't notice it. Almost. That one small detail changed everything. You see, the year 1942 was unlike any other in American history. The world was at war. The U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to produce coins quickly and cheaply as materials like copper were being redirected to the war effort. Mistakes happened, rare, fascinating mistakes that turned ordinary coins into legendary treasures. And one of the greatest mysteries from that era is the 1942 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. Most pennies from 1942 were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The Philadelphia coins usually carried no mint mark, but what makes some 1942 pennies incredibly valuable isn't just the missing letter, it's what lies beneath the surface. Some were struck on leftover bronze planchets from 1941, others on experimental steel or transitional metal blends that were never meant to leave the mint. Those errors created a handful of coins that are unlike any others in circulation. Collectors call these transitional errors, and they're among the most sought-after coins in the world. The reason? They shouldn't exist. But somehow, a few escaped the mint and ended up in the hands of everyday Americans. Imagine buying a soda or a newspaper in 1943 with a penny that, 80 years later, would be worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these 1942 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies appeared at a major auction, the bidding war was intense. It started modestly, a few $1,000s. Within minutes, it crossed 100,000. The room fell silent as 2 anonymous bidders went head-to-head. Then, the hammer dropped at over $1.3 million. A record-breaking moment that sent shockwaves through the collecting community. Dealers were stunned. Numismatists scrambled to recheck their own 1942 cents. What was so special about this one coin? Why did it command such a fortune? The answer lies in its metal composition, an incredible anomaly. The coin was struck on a leftover bronze planchet when the mint had already begun testing alternative metals for wartime production. The combination of that metal error, flawless condition, and the absence of a mint mark made it one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever discovered. But here's the chilling part. Experts believe there could be more out there, unrecognized, hiding in boxes, drawers, or jars across America. The U.S. Mint produced over 600 million pennies in 1942, and buried among them could be a handful of these million-dollar miracles. Let's go back to the man who almost threw his coin away. After realizing it was unusual, he took it to a local coin shop. The dealer's reaction said it all. He looked at the coin, then at the man, and said quietly, "You might want to sit down." They sent the penny for professional grading. Weeks later, the results came in, authentic, genuine, and one of the finest known examples of a 1942 no-mint mark bronze transitional error. The value? Estimated at $1.3 million. Collectors were shocked. Coin blogs lit up with the story. People started checking their change. YouTube videos, forums, and online communities buzzed with one question: could I have one too? But what most people miss is that not every 1942 no-mint mark penny is rare. The difference between a common 1-cent coin and a million-dollar treasure lies in tiny, almost invisible details. The color, the weight, the texture. Even the sound it makes when dropped can hint at its true nature. Here's how you can identify the real deal. First, look closely at the year, 1942. If there's no mint mark under the date, that's your starting point. Then, check the color. True bronze coins from that year have a rich reddish-brown hue, often darker than modern copper cents. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If your coin looks slightly off-metal, silvery, or has an unusual tone, it might have been struck on a wartime alloy or experimental planchet. That's where the value skyrockets. Next, weigh the coin. A regular 1942 bronze penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. But if it's lighter or heavier, especially around 2.7 or 3.2 grams, that could be a sign of a rare composition error. Use a precise scale, because a fraction of a gram can make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million. Another clue lies in the design details. The word Liberty and the date should be sharply struck. On error coins, these letters may look slightly blurred, doubled, or off-center. And don't forget the rim. Many valuable 1942 no-mint mark errors have a thicker or uneven rim because of the planchet irregularity. But what makes this story so compelling isn't just the rarity. It's the symbolism. In 1942, America was fighting for its freedom. Factories ran day and night. Resources were scarce. Yet somehow, in that chaos, a few tiny copper coins survived, relics of resilience, reminders of a nation's perseverance. And today, those little survivors have become symbols of luck, history, and unimaginable wealth. One collector described finding his own 1942 penny as like holding time itself. Another said, "It's not just metal, it's memory. It's a piece of America's past that chose to reveal itself." That's the magic of coin collecting. Every penny tells a story, and sometimes that story is worth $1 million. But don't be fooled by fakes. In recent years, counterfeiters have tried to replicate these legendary coins. They alter common 1943 steel cents to look like 1942 bronze ones, or they remove mint marks to mimic the rare no-mint mark variety. Professional grading from certified services like PCGS or NGC is the only way to confirm authenticity. If you believe you've found one, never clean it, never polish it, and handle it only by the edges. One scratch could destroy thousands, even hundreds of thousands, in potential value. Some 1942 pennies were struck on leftover 1941 planchets by mistake. That means the metal and strike quality differ slightly, a key reason these coins can sell for such astronomical sums. Each one is a time capsule, a frozen moment between two historic minting periods. Collectors have chased these coins for decades. Dealers whisper about them at conventions. Even seasoned numismatists get chills when one surfaces. The idea that something so small, so ordinary, could change someone's life overnight. That's what makes this hobby pure magic. So tonight, when you get home, take a look at your change jar. Search your drawers, your old coin albums, the dusty jars in your attic. You never know. Somewhere among those forgotten pennies could be your golden ticket, a 1942 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny worth over $1.3 million. It's more than money. It's history in your hand. It's proof that miracles hide in plain sight. It started like any ordinary day. A man sorting through an old jar of coins, the kind that's been sitting on a shelf for decades. But buried deep inside that jar was something extraordinary, a 1981 Lincoln penny without a mint mark. It looked like any other coin, yet that single penny would soon make headlines around the world for selling at auction for over $1.4 million. How could a simple copper coin, struck over 40 years ago, be worth a fortune? The answer lies in one of the most mysterious minting quirks in American history, a quiet error so subtle, most people will never notice it. You see, 1981 marked the end of an era for the Lincoln penny. It was the last full year before the U.S. Mint switched from solid copper to copper-coated zinc. But something unusual happened during that transition. At the Philadelphia Mint, where no mint marks are used, a few coins were struck using experimental dies and leftover copper planchets. The result? A limited number of 1981 pennies that look completely normal, yet contain tiny, invisible differences that make them priceless today. But the story doesn't stop there. One collector, decades later, came across one of these 1981 no-mint mark pennies while searching through his late father's old coin collection. It had been sitting untouched since the early 80s, stored in a small paper envelope. The man nearly spent it without a second thought, until something about the color caught his eye. It had a deep, reddish-brown tone, richer, heavier, almost glowing under the light. When he took it to a local coin dealer, the expert froze. After magnifying the coin, he noticed the incredible detail of the strike, razor-sharp lettering, perfectly defined edges, and most importantly, no mint mark. The dealer whispered, "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" That moment changed everything. The penny was sent to a grading service, where it was authenticated and graded as a pristine MS-68, one of the highest grades ever recorded for a 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. When it finally hit the auction block, collectors erupted with excitement. Bidding wars broke out, prices climbed, and within minutes, that small copper coin sold for a staggering $1.4 million. The secret lies in rarity and perfection. Most 1981 pennies were mass-produced, billions of them. But only a handful were struck with this combination: pure copper composition, no mint mark, and flawless strike. These coins captured the very end of the pre-1982 copper era, the final breath of America's traditional penny before it changed forever. And here's what most people don't realize: some of these coins are still out there. Hidden in old jars, tucked in drawers, or sitting unnoticed in coin rolls at your local bank. Every single one has the potential to be a once-in-a-lifetime find. Collectors say that when you hold one in your hand, you can feel its weight, literally and historically. The copper feels heavier, the edges crisper. Even Lincoln's portrait has more depth, more presence. It's a subtle difference, but experts can spot it immediately. Now, here's where the mystery deepens. Some researchers believe that the dies used for these rare 1981 no-mint mark pennies were originally intended for proof coins, coins meant for collectors only. But for reasons still debated today, a few escaped into general circulation. That's why they show such unbelievable sharpness and clarity. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that record-breaking sale, the coin community went into a frenzy. Dealers began inspecting every 1981 penny they could find. Coin roll hunters flooded YouTube with discovery videos. And suddenly, everyone was asking the same question: could I have one too? One man's pocket change had turned into $1 million miracle, sparking a nationwide treasure hunt. Experts warn, however, that not every 1981 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The majority are common, worth only a cent. The key lies in the details, and those details can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1.4 million. First, examine the coin's surface. The rare versions are often struck on pure copper planchets, so they'll have a distinct red tone, not dull or brown like worn coins. The color should pop, almost like it's glowing. Next, check the date, 1981, and make sure there's absolutely no D or S mint mark under the date. It should be completely blank, meaning it was struck in Philadelphia. Then, look closely at the lettering. The rare ones show sharp, almost proof-like edges, with crisp details in Lincoln's hair and the word Liberty. No smudges, no weak strikes. If you have a scale, weigh it. A solid copper penny from 1981 will weigh about 3.11 grams. The zinc ones, which started appearing later, weigh around 2.5 grams. That difference alone could mean the world. And if your coin has all of these traits and is in exceptional condition, no scratches, no discoloration, you might be holding a small fortune. But there's another twist most people don't know. A few 1981 pennies show what's called a double die error, where the lettering or date appears slightly doubled due to a minting misalignment. These double die varieties are even rarer, and in top condition, can fetch hundreds of thousands, sometimes over $1 million, from eager collectors. The penny you ignored for decades, the coin you tossed into a jar, could actually hold the key to a fortune. Collectors who once focused on silver dollars and rare gold coins are now chasing these Lincoln cents, because history has proven that small coins can deliver massive surprises. Every so often, a story resurfaces, someone in Ohio, or California, or Texas, who finds an old penny in a collection, only to discover it's worth more than their car, their house, or even their retirement savings. And the 1981 no mint mark penny is one of the most elusive of them all. Some experts believe fewer than 50 in pristine condition exist today. That's fewer than most rare baseball cards, fewer than some rare stamps. It's a piece of American minting history, a symbol of the change from old copper to modern zinc, and a reminder that value often hides in the most ordinary places. Dealers are still searching. Auctions still spark bidding wars. And every year, the value keeps climbing as fewer high-grade examples remain unaccounted for. So the next time you reach for that penny jar, pause for a moment. Look closely. Because one of those dull, forgotten coins could shine brighter than gold. It's stories like this that keep the heart of coin collecting alive. The idea that a simple piece of change can hold the power to change your life. That's the magic of the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny. It's not just a coin, it's a mystery, a piece of history, and for a lucky few, a ticket to fortune. So go check your change. Open that drawer. Look inside that jar you haven't touched in years. Because the coin that looks ordinary to everyone else could be your $1.4 million discovery. Until one collector realized it was worth a staggering $1.5 million. Yes, a simple 1960 Lincoln penny, something millions of Americans handled every single day, turned out to be one of the most extraordinary coins in modern U.S. history. It started, as many great discoveries do, with a mistake, a tiny, almost invisible flaw at the Denver Mint. But that flaw changed everything. Somewhere in the chaos of mass production, a small batch of 1960 pennies left the mint with a die misalignment so subtle, so perfectly imperfect, that it created one of the rarest varieties ever known. Most people spent it without a second thought. But one man in Colorado didn't. He noticed something strange. The lettering near Liberty looked off, almost ghosted, as if the strike had slipped. Under a magnifying glass, he saw doubling on Lincoln's ear and jawline. His heart raced. Could it be? He sent it to a grading service, expecting maybe a minor error, but what came back shocked him. Double die obverse, extremely rare, mint state 68. The market value? Estimated at $1.5 million. The answer lies in rarity and perfection. You see, 1996 was a year of transition in U.S. coinage. The mint was testing new dies, polishing methods, and even experimenting with pressure calibrations. Out of billions of strikes, Only a few came out with this extraordinary misalignment. Collectors were stunned. Auction houses scrambled to verify it. Dealers whispered about it in private forums. A Denver-based numismatist called it the modern ghost penny, because it was nearly invisible to the naked eye, yet carried a fortune's weight, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin finally hit auction, bids skyrocketed. A room full of seasoned collectors went silent as the auctioneer called out the final hammer price, $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had turned into a life-changing miracle, but what makes this penny so valuable isn't just the error. It's the condition. Only a handful survived without scratches or wear. Most 1990-60 pennies were heavily circulated, tossed in drawers or coin jars, losing their luster forever. But this one? It looked as if it had just left the press, untouched, flawless, glowing with that deep copper-red brilliance collectors call full red mint state. Imagine holding a coin like that, a piece of American history born from imperfection, surviving against all odds, waiting decades for someone to finally recognize its worth. But the story gets even stranger. Experts discovered that the die used for the 1990-60 era had been replaced halfway through production, which means fewer than a few dozen examples could possibly exist. Each one slightly unique, a subtle doubling here, a faint line there, like fingerprints on history, and yet many of them could still be hiding in old coin rolls, forgotten jars, dusty drawers, right now, across the country. But here's what you need to look for. Take out your magnifier and focus on Lincoln's ear. If you see a faint second outline or doubling on the ear lobe or jawline, that's the first clue. Then, check the date. The 1996 should look bold, crisp, and ever so slightly doubled at the bottom of the digits. The mint mark, D, might appear a hair out of alignment, or slightly tilted. Don't stop there. Examine the word Liberty. On the rare $1 million specimens, the B and E often show light doubling or a ghost-like shadow effect. If you notice that, don't spend that penny. Protect it. Store it. Get it graded. Because that 1-cent coin could be your $1 million miracle. Collectors across America are now checking their 1990-60 pennies, hoping lightning strikes twice. Stories are pouring in. People finding near-perfect coins in change, in old piggy banks, in forgotten rolls handed down from parents or grandparents. One woman in Texas found hers in a coin jar that hadn't been touched since 1998. She sent it for appraisal, and it sold privately for over $800,000. That sale reignited the frenzy. Suddenly, 1990-60 pennies were the talk of the numismatic world. Social media lit up with photos, comparisons, and wild rumors. And the answer is yes. Because not all of these rare errors have been found. Experts believe several examples are still unaccounted for, maybe tucked away in coin collections, maybe sitting right now inside a coffee can in someone's garage. The Denver Mint only confirmed one known die variation, but several unexplained pieces have surfaced that match the pattern perfectly. That's what keeps collectors searching, night after night, through boxes of coins and rolls of pennies. Because with every coin you flip, every penny you inspect, there's a heartbeat of possibility. The thought that this could be the one. The 1990-60 Lincoln penny that changes your life forever. Dealers say that even lower-grade examples, coins showing slight wear but with visible doubling, can fetch thousands. A mint-state example, with sharp details and minimal blemishes, can command tens or even hundreds of thousands. But the pristine, untouched, perfectly preserved specimens? Those are the million-dollar dreams. Just imagine the irony. A coin made for a single cent, now commanding a price higher than gold by weight. It's not just money, it's magic. It's history whispering through copper and zinc, reminding us that greatness sometimes hides in the smallest, most ordinary things. And if you think this couldn't happen to you, think again. Every day, people are finding coins they once thought worthless, turning pocket change into paydays beyond belief. So tonight, before you toss that spare change aside, take a closer look. Focus on your 1990-60 pennies. Examine the details, the year, the date, the mint mark. Because that one coin could be the key to your own $1 million story. somewhere, another 1990-60 Lincoln penny is waiting to be discovered. Maybe it's sitting on your dresser. Maybe it's in that jar beside your bed. Maybe it's in your wallet right now. All it takes is one moment of curiosity, one glance, to change everything.